Hope there's room in your trunk. I'm gonna put my bike in it.
That's a great
really,
segment for the
really
show start.
glad that was being live streamed, Ryan. Thank you for that.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to Beerfield Fantasy Football. I am your host, Chris Hopper, at Beerfield Hop with 2 P's. As always, joined by... Actually, no, I don't want to do this. Dan, do intros. I don't feel like doing intros today. You do intros.
Why do I got? I'm trying to send out the Twitter stuff. Ryan, you do intro.
I'm Ryan Miner. You can find me at Ryan Miner _FFB with 2 F's. We have Dan Theory at... I really suck at this.
Beerfield Theory.
At Beelfield Theory.
Close. You almost got it.
Sound like me.
So close.
I try.
You're doing so good, Ryan. You're doing so well.
You put me on the spot. I wasn't ready for it.
I know. I blame Hopper.
I blame Dan.
I blame Dan too for not telling Hopper to not pass it on me.
You passed the buck on this one.
But guys, we have a guest tonight too.
We do.
We have Justin Taylor.
What's Justin?
JT Orange.
Yeah, find me on Twitter at JT Orange. I'm usually in a bunch of Discords at JT Orange 4. So that if you're looking around any of that stuff, that's kind of where I'm at. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Who are you? What do you do? Why do we have you? Hype yourself up. Tell the people.
Yeah, just a bunch of stuff kind of going on me lately in the fantasy world. Just joined with the guys over at Dynasty Pros, also PTW Fantasy and DLF. I'm going to start working for them, doing some articles and all those odds and ends. You also can find me on the Commissioner Evaluation podcast on YouTube and Spotify. I'm a co-host with John McGlynn. John McGlynn 75 at Twitter. He kind of runs that bad boy, and he's brought me in as a co-host. So I'm doing that, and I got a few other things in the works as well. So keep an eye out for me on all kinds of places and stuff here coming up.
You can't tell from the hat. He also likes beer, and
he likes beer so much.
He likes beer so much he does it.
He makes it.
Hey, me too, just not professionally.
Yeah, me and my normal everyday life outside of the fantasy football world. I own JT Walker's Brewery in Mahomet, Illinois, and I also own Project 47 Smokehouse as my barbecue joint, and I own Chop Truck, where we do a little bit of mix of everything on that thing. So everything from barbecue to Mexican, all that stuff. So that's my everyday life is running restaurants and a brewery. But I love fantasy sports. I was a sports journalist and a former high school head assistant football coach on a varsity for a bunch of years. So I've been involved with sports pretty much my whole life, and just kind of doing this now to kind of feed the itch of my sports world love. So love fantasy, play in every type of format, do a little bit of everything. So I appreciate you guys having me on. Nothing better than talking sports and beer.
Wait, Dan, you didn't tell me you brought a Big J journalist.
Dude, I had no fucking clue. So, I mean, I clearly I didn't also.
He has credentials, Dan.
He's got a lot of credentials.
He reached out to me. He made me feel special. You know, it was like.
I'm glad. Somebody's got
it. I got to be on your show. I'm like, oh man, what's wrong with this guy? He wants to be on my podcast.
How do you keep up with a podcast, and how do you write for all these sites? Like I have this podcast, I also write for a site, and I can barely keep up with all that.
I tend to overload myself. That's just what I do.
It's simple.
kind of my nature. My girlfriend was making fun of me. She's like, can't you just do a little bit of something? I'm like, nope. I got to be in 30 fantasy leagues. I got to do 3 or 4 podcasts. I got to write for 3 or 4 different sites, plus run all my businesses. I just can't help myself.
Pretty easy.
Are you
just don't sleep.
I don't sleep a lot. I tell you that. It's I'm one of those old people now that if I can sneak in a nap, I take a lot of naps because I'm usually only getting about 4 hours of sleep a night. So I'm old school night bar person. So a lot of times I still don't go to bed till 2 a.m. and then I got to get the kids school at 7. It's a problem. So yeah, I try to sneak in a nap anywhere I can.
You just ask me as a Sagittarius. Are we about to do astrology?
No. Usually like Sagittarius. So I'm a Sagittarius. Are like go-getters, constantly going and moving.
Ryan, no astrology
fuck is it?
no astrology before beer previews. You know the rules.
I do now.
I usually get yelled at for talking IDP all the time, and then on podcasts. So I've never. That's pretty funny. No, I'm a Cancer.
Justin, don't worry.
Don't
Don't worry,
know-
man. I get yelled at all the
I don't
time
know
by
what
them.
I am. I
Man, that head is
That-
moosey. And I just spilled
Sometimes-
beer.
sometimes you gotta have
You
good
spilled on your
head.
keyboard?
No, I didn't. I did not.
Okay.
Thankfully, I missed the keyboard.
I can't believe you spilled it before the beer review too.
Well,
I mean, come
I'm
on.
like, there's this thick, moosey, rocky like head on it, and it's pretty and stuff. And then I went to show the camera and forgot it was a full glass. Remember what I was doing before the show. All right.
Sorry, Justin.
I remember my first beer too, bud.
Anyway, we're gonna talk all the quarterback signings because there are a bunch of mid-tier quarterbacks that signed. We got franchise tag stuff to get into, and combine reactions because that happened last weekend, and there were definitely a lot of hot takes, a lot of thoughts. So naturally, we have to share ours. Before we do that, most of us, all of us, we're drinking something or another. So yeah, let's do that.
What's fueling Beerfield?
Dan, why don't you start? I need a paper towel.
So I was down in the Marion and Carbondale for the last couple of days, and I was able to stumble across a brewery I've never heard of. It's called Revnita. They're out of, I just saw this too. I don't think they're out of that area.
Ravina sounds like Wisconsin.
Revita is out of Chicago,
I
so
was
they're
so
nowhere
close.
near where I was.
But
anyways,
I was really close.
I mean, sure, they're close. But
They're
anyways,
one of the
this,
suburbs, I think.
yeah. But yeah, this is their pilsner because best way to tell if a brewery can make good beer is if they make a beer that you can't hide behind adjuncts and hops.
Ryan?
I'm drinking a Busch Light. Just kidding. No,
It's better than the Miller Lite you had on last week.
And that was very good. All right, I didn't mind it.
Oh,
No, I got
God.
Rogue Brewing's Out of Line West Coast Indian Pale Ale.
Nice. All right. I went a little closer to where our guest was from, so I couldn't necessarily get his stuff, so I still went the same area. I got Blind Pig out of Champaign. I have their extra special Brewster, so this is an ESB. I'm really like on this kick of like light alcohol malty beers lately, and by lately I mean the last 6 to 8 months. So was really happy to come across an ESB because you don't really do that packaged all that often. So especially from Blind Pig. So went ahead and grabbed that. More on that about halfway through the show. What do you got, Justin?
Figured I'd break out one of my own beers since we're here.
There you go.
I'm drinking. It's called Small Town Hero. I'll show you the can there. It's an American IPA we made for a teacher named Jason Seaman. He was involved in a school shooting a couple years ago. He in Indiana, where he teaches now, and he actually tackled the shooter. Took a couple bullets in the process, but saved everyone else, anyone from dying, anything like that. He was a stellar athlete at our high school here at Muhammad Seymour, and then played at SIU. Carbondale was a defensive end for them. We named that beer after them and give a portion of the proceeds to his charity, which does just a bunch of stuff for kids. They do a bunch of sporting events and other things like that. So that's our beer, Small Town Hero, an American IPA.
Couple questions. First off, do you have the name of the charity handy so we can shout it out?
Oh, let me find it. I got it on the can here. Give me 2 seconds.
Ryan can shout it out on
It is
Twitter too.
It's the
Yeah.
Seaman Fund, the Seaman Fund. If you look that up, sea like the ocean, seaman. Yeah, just look up the Seaman Fund. You can find it there. He's a teacher in a suburb in Indianapolis. Real great guy. Like I said, one of the probably top 5 football players in our school's history. Was also a great basketball player and a great track athlete. Guy was just an absolute beast.
That's first off, incredible. Second off, I mean, the other thing I have to know is like full recovery. I mean, how did he come out of
absolutely
it?
full
Okay,
recovery.
good.
The guy,
Good.
he's great. There was one student, Ellie. She's also got a charity foundation for her. She took a bullet, but she's doing well in recovery.
Good.
Like I said, it's just kind of a crazy story. And luckily, Jason, being the guy he is, just jumped in right away and tackled the shooter and just ran right at him and tackled him before anything else could happen. So anybody that knows him just knows what an unbelievable person he is. And thankfully the guy is just a huge guy, and he's a big athlete, and he recovered quickly from his gunshot wounds.
When did this
That's
happen?
awesome.
When did this happen?
Oh,
Justin?
that's a great question. It's been quite a few years now. We've made this beer a couple different times. Also, if you're in Indiana, I will say this before I forget. If you are in Indiana, there is a beer brewery, BIER beer brewery. We actually did a collaboration with them to make the beer and sell it in Indiana because we had so many people calling us wanting the beer from Indiana, and we didn't have distribution rights there. So we collabed with them, made the beer there so that they could sell it in Indiana. So I think this is probably, I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago at this point. I can't, I should have the date off the top of my head, but it was right at the end of school. I think it was like 2017 or 18, somewhere in that range. But yeah, it's just like it's like kind of a crazy story, but just happy that things, for a situation like that turned out about as well as they could.
Yeah,
I'm just shocked that
awesome.
I'm just shocked that I never I don't remember ever hearing anything about it. Like, especially with with all the climate it's today, they have a story that actually has a positive ending. I know, compared to what we're so accustomed to now. Yeah, it's
what it could have
just
been.
I'm surprised that didn't make national news, and that's not getting talked about more as we actually got to see, someone, we got to see something good come from it, and we get to see lives saved.
It's like a true
there was some
beer.
stuff done about it, but again, because it was not as this huge standoff and all these people lost their lives, I think it just didn't quite get as much news coverage as it typically would. But yeah, he did get some stuff, and like I said, just an awesome guy.
Absolutely.
I was proud to make the beer. I asked him if he would let us do it, and he said for sure. And just another crazy story to go along with that. Sorry, I'm talking so much here, but
good.
I actually covered him when he was in high school before I coached, when I was working at the Champaign News Gazette. And I actually wrote his Player of the Year story when he was in high school. So going all the way back to where I covered him back when he was in high school, and just a great kid he was, and be able to kind of be friends with him from knowing him from that, and then being able to kind of sell this beer. And he loves IPAs. He's a big IPA guy. So I said, what kind of beer you want us to make? He said, got to be an IPA. So we figured an American IPA for an American hero. And so that's kind of what we did. And it ended up working out really well. And, we were just pumped for what we were able to do for him. And like I said, just a great all around guy.
That's incredible.
That's
an awesome story.
Incredible.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
All right. That's the show. I don't know how we're gonna have it. So
yeah. So Derek Carr, that's a good one. That's how we follow that.
Good transition. That's a good transition.
Derek Carr. All right.
News.
All right, we will get to Derek Carr. Before we do that, some draft happenings real quick. Not a lot of commentary here. Texans have been docked a fifth-round pick and fined $175,000 for what the NFL is terming as salary cap violations. They're calling it an accounting error. It's apparently had to do with Deshaun Watson's workouts during COVID. So I have no idea much else about that. But Texans down a fifth-rounder. Not good if you're a rebuilding franchise. Be giving away draft picks.
They screwed up.
The Texans, are we surprised? No.
The flip side of this, the 49ers, who are the best at getting compensatory picks, have been awarded 3 third-round picks for D'Amico Ryans and Rand Carthen getting hired away from them. So We got 3 third rounders. I believe a couple later as well. They're not the only team to get awarded picks, but they definitely by far got the most. So especially with those third round picks, the rich get richer there.
Maybe we'll find the right running back there.
Yeah, until they use them on running backs.
Use them on all 3 running backs. Where's Zach Charbonnet's going?
And Devin A. Chain and
yeah. The Chargers.
Yeah, they just take the entire second round of the rookie draft picks. They draft all 3 of them.
Right.
Everybody's like,
this is terrible.
Nobody knows what to do because all those guys go to the same team.
Where, yeah. Yep. It'll be one of them for sure. I bet they do use a compensatory pick on a third round running back just to keep the narrative alive.
That's right.
Kill TDP right there. The Jets released Braxton Berrios, which is more of a fan of the show, or not fan of the show. Show's a fan of him. I don't know if he's a fan of the show.
I mean, maybe he's a fan of the show.
Maybe. I don't know. More of a footnote there. Productive when given the opportunity. Had some good PPR weeks, but you hope he catches on someplace he can get a little bit more consistent volume because he did show a little bit when he saw the field. One of those players I like to have on rosters that can be plug and play if he gets the right amount of opportunity.
He's a killer if you count punt and kick return yards.
Yeah.
I was in a couple leagues where he was actually super playable with a punt and kick return yards with him being a slot. All he needed was a couple catches, a good return here or there, and he was actually a decent asset.
Yeah. Yeah, and when I say plug and play, I like having those types of players around too that, just if they're a slot guy that's going to get 6-7 targets and 70-80 yards a game, if you need to plug in for injury or bye week that's not going to kill you, especially in PPR, I like having those types of players around. So, that's where Berrios showed that upside can be. And with return yards. The Chargers restructured the Keenan Allen and Mike Williams contracts, so they'll both hang around. Kind of disappointing seasons last year for both of them.
Injury riddled seasons.
For Keenan Allen, Mike Williams is just always a disappointment.
Yeah. He gets you all excited, and the next week he screws you.
Like most of my 20s, but not Mike Williams. Cardinals released Chosen Anderson, formerly known as Robbie.
Is it Chosen Robbie Anderson or Robbie Chosen Anderson?
I think it's just Chosen now.
All right.
Not to be on the team anymore.
All right. So more notable stuff now. Giants placed a non-exclusive franchise tag on Saquon Barkley. So basically what the non-exclusive means, he can negotiate with other clubs. But if they sign him, it's going to cost him 2 first-round picks, or he can play on the tag for $10 million if they don't work out a long-term deal. This pretty much kills any chance of Barkley going elsewhere, I would think. Don't see a team giving up 2 first-rounders for any running back.
Where's Dave Gettleman? Is he a GM of another team? That'd be the only person that'd probably give up 2 first-round picks for Saquon Barkley.
So.
No.
It's more of a jab.
He's unemployed at the moment, I think.
He's probably should be.
Should stay that way.
Might be in the XFL. I'll have to look.
He's calling New York. Hey, can I get Saquon Barkley on whatever XFL team I'm covering?
We need him for the Guardians.
Does that work? Yeah. You think this got to be any good?
Get him for the Battlehawks?
Definitely.
I only spent a number 2 pick overall.
No thanks. We're good with Brian Hill. Yeah. So that kills all the Barkley dreams of him going elsewhere. He'll be in New York again.
God, I wanted him in Chicago. That was. We talked so much about that last week, and that's all I wanted was to see Justin Fields and Saquon Barkley RPOs.
Here's a sneaky thing I keep bringing up to people is speaking about Barkley on the Bears. Nobody's talking about the Bears taking Bijan in the possibly top of the second round if he gets there in the mid-range. It'd be interesting to see if they move and try to get him or not. Obviously, if he goes late first round, they got no shot. But it'd be interesting if they try to make a move if he slips to that second round and they try to get him to replace Monty.
No,
I think
but
that
they
would be pretty interesting.
Would be in a position to move around and potentially get Gibbs.
That's what they get in return
well,
too for the 101. Like, they can get a high second round pick for the and on top of what's being offered with the 101. So it could. I'd be happy to see that too.
They're at plus 3,400 to take Bijan Robinson, and that's on FanDuel. to be the team that drafts Bijan Robinson this year. So
I don't think.
Are the Cowboys still the favorites to draft him?
no, actually the
Yeah, this
Lions
one.
are.
The Lions aren't. Oh my god.
Yeah,
The Bears need
the
so
Cowboys are
much
fourth.
help
Or actually,
everywhere
no.
else. I don't see them going. I don't. As a resident Bears fan, I don't necessarily see them going Bijan. It would be very exciting, but with the help they need at wide receiver, and on defense, particularly getting some pass rush presence. But if he is still there in the top of the first, maybe. And really same thing with Gibbs if they miss on Bijan, because I don't think they go in with just Khalil Herbert. So,
Well, this is edge rusher heavy this year, so I
Which
think
is a good
the
thing.
Bears will get their pick, and
Bears
hopefully
can do a
the Bears
lot
just
of
keep
things.
trading down. I think they keep trading down if they wanted to.
and stash draft capital for the next 2 years. Yeah,
Exactly.
I agree. Speaking of the Giants, they extended Daniel Jones 4-year deal, $160 million, $35 million in incentives, basically front loaded to the first 2 years. So this is kind of what we talked about with Jones, and maybe go on bridge deal for him to see if you can develop him any further without having to give up, a high draft pick on a quarterback or to move up this year. They've got the Giants are a team with the defense that performed well that you can keep adding to. They definitely need help in the wide receiver room. So, see if Daniel Jones can develop for 2 years and cut ties. This is a Blake Bortles deal after his rookie deal expired in Jacksonville. Just a little bit more money because it's been a few years and quarterback prices are inflated.
Yeah, it's not a bad deal.
It's a win-win almost for both, because I know Jones was aiming for $45 million, and I'm sure New York wanted to keep him on a 3-year or less deal. This is kind of the Jones, we're going to sign you for 4 years. We'll give you $40 million, but we're going to front load everything. So if you suck, we're just going to let you go. Which I mean,
Makes sense.
This is a win-win for all. At least I think.
Yeah.
And
It's almost like a 2-year contract.
And Jones is really the best spot. He's a decent super flex fantasy asset with the rushing upside, and the success he saw as becoming more of a modern Alex Smith, where you can get production on the ground and he can be a game manager without turning the football very much, because I'm fairly certain he set career lows and all those interception rates this year. So
interceptions, yes, and fumbles too. We had talked for a bit about how he had a long stretch where he was turnover free, but
he did his thing.
Right.
Actually, I like that contract.
Dable.
I mean, so first year, so next year it's 9.5 million. Then it goes way up to 35.5 million, and then 30 million. But the dead cap for the first 2 years is 82 million, then 63 million. Then 2025, actually, they have it out at 18 million.
Yeah.
Before 2026, where it's actually like super basically free $9 million dead cap hit if he sucks. But if not, I mean, it's a win-win for both parties on this one.
I agree. Anything else on Jones? All right. Dan, I'll let you pull the lead on this one. Baltimore placed a non-exclusive franchise tag on Lamar Jackson. Like Barkley, he can negotiate with other teams. Unlike Barkley, a team could opt to give up 2 first-rounders for an opportunity to sign Lamar. Ravens can either match or let him go for whatever that is. Playing on the tag would net him $32.4 million, and there was a laundry list of teams shortly after this was announced that it was reported that they're out on him, including Carolina and the Commanders.
I honestly think this is their response to the Jimmy Haslam deal for Watson last year, and not wanting to offer this type of guaranteed deal out for this long and this amount of money. Jackson is significantly he's better than Watson, the better situation. There's no off the field stuff. Obviously, he's got more accolades, to his name at this point. It's sad because his own arrogance is kind of the reason why he's in this spot. If he had an agent, he just wouldn't be in this position. He would have people be able to talk to his agent. This would have been figured out probably last year.
Yeah, I read a pretty interesting article on Yahoo today about this, where they interviewed a couple agents and talked to some people about the situation. And I mean, I think some of these teams are absolutely lying that they're just completely out on him.
Absolutely.
I don't believe the Atlanta Falcons are completely out on Lamar Jackson. I
I
just
don't think
don't.
any of these teams
No,
are
it's a
at all.
smokescreen.
Yeah,
But
it's a smokescreen.
but yeah, there was a lot of talk and people said, this deal probably could have gotten done if he had an agent, like you said, because the fact is, they could have been at the combine talking up owners this weekend. They could have been kind of saying, hey, is there a way to rework this deal where he still gets the money he thinks he deserves, but it's not a fully guaranteed deal, or we use it, a different way. And they were talking about all the different routes that they could have got this deal done. That's just not happening because no one's having a conversation. It's Lamar, and Lamar's not calling up these owners and just like, shooting the shit with them and going, hey, like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? I mean, I understand not wanting to pay an agent because it's an astronomical fee, but sometimes those guys are worth their money. They know what they're doing, and they can get a deal like this done when you're as big as he is. And I think that's definitely hindering him here. The other thing they were talking about with all these teams being out is just the fact that teams don't want to go out there and admit they're trying to get him, because if they don't get him, they look bad. And they don't want to, if you're a team like the Dolphins, you don't want to go out and put an offer sheet for Lamar and then the Ravens match it, which most people think they'll match anything that comes in. But you put an offer sheet out for Lamar, and then all of a sudden Ravens match, and you're the Dolphins, you're like, hey, Tua, never mind, man, we still love you. We want you. So
Right.
so that they're saying there's a lot of teams that are in a bad spot like that if they don't get him, because the Ravens have 7 days to match. Well, they have 7 days that they can't spend money, can't do anything, and that they're just waiting. And then if they match and they lose out on other players, that, beyond the money you have to spend in the 2 first rounders that you'd have to give up, it makes it a pretty tough situation, which is why you need an agent in the background working these deals in advance and going back to the Ravens like, hey, man, they're going to offer us this before they even offer it. And then whether it's even worth coming out and putting on an actual sheet, put an offer on him. So I think it's a super complicated situation that sounds really easy. It sounds like, hey, let's just sign Lamar. He's awesome. And it's a lot more complicated than that on all fronts, I think.
Yeah. And, the other important thing here too is 2 things on the agent front. One, like, those guys get paid a lot. They get paid a lot for a reason though, right? And that's because they can get you more than what they cost. So it's good ROI. And I know his mom handles, a lot of who's, not to take anything away from her, from what I've read, she's fairly successful at managing his business ventures. You can still hire an agent to handle your football career and let her handle your business ventures and endorsements and things of that nature. Just, work that out with your agent. Agent's not going to say no to a quarterback with where Josh Allen and Mahomes just got paid into that cut for not getting to manage everything. So,
And the problem when you have family, it just becomes personal.
Right.
It's, the stuff becomes personal. It's not business. And then people get all wrapped up in their feelings about it. And I think that's the issue with Lamar going in and doing it on himself. I mean, he thinks he's worth an X amount, which he probably is, but you got to finagle it a little bit. You got to say, hey, can we put more guaranteed early? Can we do these different things? Can we work the system, as opposed to him just saying, I want 250 million guaranteed. And that's literally all he's telling them. So
yeah, he screwed himself on that.
He absolutely did, because agents can go in and they can rework the system. They know how to work with these teams to kind of circumvent some of that, where he could still get maybe a $250 million deal, but they switch it up on what he can get, what years, what's guaranteed. It's all those little things that if you're a player, like, you don't know about that stuff. I mean, I know they're in there, but like, they just don't know. There's a reason these guys have law degrees that are sports agents most of the time. I mean, There's a lot of stuff that goes into these contracts.
Yeah. There absolutely is. And the other thing, too, is that they can present it. They can put the case together, and they're experts at putting the case together and combating, because, look, this is how it goes. Teams are going to say, I think you're worth X, and here's why, and try to talk that number down based on certain things. And, for Lamar, I'm sure they're looking at some of the passing statistics and things of that nature, games missed, things like that. But the agents are experts in going in and taking the things that you do well and conveying that into a story that says, you are worth this much, you should be paid this much. in selling teams on that, and then like you said, working that all out, and not behind closed doors, not knowing the intricacies of what's going on there, but I can imagine that somebody that's successful at managing business ventures is not necessarily the same level of successful at negotiating NFL contracts.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a hard one to try and negotiate too, because you look at his stats and like ever since his 2019 breakout year, they've been going down. So it's kind of like hard to like try to sell. Like, how do you sell yourself? As
Well,
like,
and also,
oh, yeah,
what do you
I'm worth,
compare it to as a benchmark?
yeah. And like I heard that he had the $250 million offer on the table, but it was only with like half of it, like 150 million of it guaranteed.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think it was like 131, and he like got real upset and thought that was like a slap in the face. And I think they were like, "Hey, man, this is where the negotiation starts. This is where we
yeah,
start working it." And it kind of seemed like he just told him, "I want 250, and I want 250 guaranteed," and he was like, "That's it." Well, I mean, that's not going to work. And most of these owners, no matter how much they want a quarterback, are not just going to get bossed around and told it's this or nothing. And I think that is where kind of things went south for him.
Well, and when you get into the injuries with Lamar and the play style, and I don't want to beat that drum to death, but the play style makes him more susceptible to injury, and he's missed games. So you get into that, teams are going to be hesitant to fully guarantee that contract, and as far as injury guarantees and stuff go, because of that, and also the fact that, like you said, Ryan, stats are down, and yes, I blame Greg Roman, just like I know Dan does, for the lack of development as a passer, but it hasn't been there. So how do you protect yourself if that doesn't develop, and if the injuries do continue to pile up? You can't. It's a little bit different with a fully guaranteed deal, and you could have made the same argument for Allen. That might be pretty comparable, or the closest comp he has that's modern day. But that's where I think the Ravens are coming from as far as not wanting to fully guarantee a ton of that.
they want to play it safe.
It all falls back to Watson. This is Jimmy Haslam. This deal gets done, as we talked about. He needs a manager. I don't think it's the stats that's holding it up. I mean, I know he's not as productive as his 19 season. Historically, we have never seen an offense that good. But our boy Josh Larkey, I pointed out today, they scored in over 50% of their drives that year. That's never happened since.
Yeah,
like it was a outlier season from the youngest MVP, who also is an anonymous MVP, which he can still hold that hat on, and it sucks to them because he's been hurt the last 2 years.
Did you mean unanimous?
Yeah, there you go. You know, mean words. I'm always horrible with them.
Anonymous MVPs are harder to come by.
Anonymous, yeah. Wait, who won it?
MVP, you don't even know who he is.
Who is it?
You got the MVP.
Yeah. It's going to be a very interesting. It wouldn't shock me if all of a sudden we see news that he's going to hire an agent, which he needs to.
Yeah.
Like, this is so well beyond what him and his mom should be logically be able to do without going to school and going through that entire process. Shout out to them for doing it for this long, but he's not
negotiating the rookie deal where it's just language.
This is the most important contract of his, the most important contract
of his life,
for his life and career. Like, this is it.
This could be
what's going to set
him.
you up for life, and what you're going to make beyond this, and what you're going to make the most on, because he should get, in my opinion, a 5+ year deal. Like, he's proven, yes, the injuries are there, but the injuries are fluky, and we all know that I
agree. I'm not. Yeah. I have no problem with that time frame.
So this all comes back to him and the slight arrogance that he can do this himself, and not enough people in his corner saying, dude, just pay up. You're going to make that back tenfold. I promise you. And it may not be Baltimore. Baltimore's in the driver's seat here. They look bad. They've looked bad, not just with him, but with Dobbins' situation, with Bateman coming out. This entire situation has looked terrible since Newsom's left. And now Newsom's going out on other talk radios, giving his own 2 cents on this, on top of players coming out and saying stuff. Every single broadcaster has mentioned how dumb this, it's just how odd this whole situation is. And I think in the end, Jackson's going to end up getting the worst of it. And as someone who will always stand behind the player, is not what I want to see. As much as I love the Ravens, like I will forever be behind players when it comes to this shit, because they're going to get taken advantage of, and him is so obvious without having an agent to protect him that's the case.
Anything else on Jackson before we keep her moving? We still got a good amount of news to get to.
A lot of stuff.
Let's go. Yeah.
All right, Joe Mixon's in more hot water after a shooting occurred in his neighborhood. His sister was questioned by police. No arrests were made. Mixon was stated to not be part of the crime. However, police were at his house at like 1:30 a.m. as he was in, quote, part of an active crime scene. This comes shortly after an aggravated menacing charge was dropped. So really quick succession. And as the Bengals are already on the verge of cutting him for cap savings anyway. Not trending great for him right now.
No, he's gone.
Yeah, I mean, he could be completely innocent here too, but it's a bad look to have two things that you got to pull your way out of. Boom, boom, like that.
Yeah, it sucks for him.
It does.
It's especially because it sounds like he has literally nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it did this time.
It couldn't have, like,
the one before he put himself in that situation.
Yes, this can't be, just a worse situation. And as you mentioned, for him, he's already a high-end cut casualty at this point, as he probably should be. Just the nature of business. So,
yep. Geno Smith back to the Seahawks. It's a 3-year deal worth up to $105 million, only $40 million guaranteed. So, bridge deal for Geno, which makes a lot of sense. I also saw something after this as I was putting this together that basically said that Seattle's now a prime landing spot for Anthony Richardson, and I don't necessarily disagree with that.
Brian knows where I want Anthony Richardson to go.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Dan was tagging me all day the other day on Twitter.
No, but this would be a fantastic spot for him, and great for
great for Geno.
Great for Geno, even better for Seattle compared to what Jones just got and what Card's going to get.
It's a very
discount on him.
It's a very team fair deal. It rewards Geno for his comeback player of the year stuff and putting together easily the best season of his career. And it doesn't prevent them from doing other things.
Yeah, I think this is a smart deal all around. I got to applaud Geno and his agent, because they were smart. They took a good deal, knowing that Seattle could have just buried him, but they gave him a chance, and not just trying to push it to the limit and get every last dollar. I think was smart on his part. Take a good deal, keep that good faith with the team. You're still getting paid. Maybe it's not the max deal he could have got, but I just think I think it's the opposite of the Jackson situation. It's just a smart move by him and the team. Just, hey, we'll give you a little more than we want to give you, but we're going to give you a little less than you want. Everybody's happy when no one's happy on the both sides. So I think this deal totally made sense to me, even though it just put the absolute hammer into my boy Drew Lock. His days are
no.
It's like, I was like, man, I thought Drew was going to get a shot.
Justin, you didn't know what you just opened up, man.
Dude, it's not
now we're going to be here till midnight.
You mentioned Drew Lock, and now this show has just got 2 hours added onto it. No. I can't mute Hopper on my own. Fuck.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy. And this does not preclude Drew Lock from taking over the reins here. Should actually Drew Lock's a free agent, so maybe he ends up.
I would love to see him go to like Tampa or one of those teams.
Why? So he can lose to Kyle Trask?
Carolina.
Perfect.
Carolina, give him DJ Moore and let Lock
send him.
Why? So you can overthrow DJ Moore. God, I cannot wait.
Let Lock cook.
To bring back the Hopper versus Dan about Drew Lock.
Let Lock
discourse. Oh my God.
Geno.
Hopper's my new best friend now.
Yeah,
I know. We're brothers in the love for Drew
I was
Lock.
so happy to hear you say that.
The brothers that love mediocre to bad quarterbacks. God, this is great. This is why we do this, dude. Celebrate bad quarterbacks.
Celebrate
mediocre quarterbacks.
Dude, I love just as bad quarterbacks as much as these guys do. So I can't talk shit.
Little loyalty here too from look, Gino
That's
could have
true.
been out of the league had the Seahawks not stuck by him, developed him, let him, stuck with him as Russ's backup for several years, and it paid off. So good on both.
Love to see it. I want Gino to kill it for 2 more years and get that massive extension.
Yeah, I want him to remember to write back.
Well, it wouldn't be massive, but good for him.
Las Vegas franchise tag Josh Jacobs. He's on record as saying he will play on the tag if the Raiders add other talented players around him. This is not
not gonna happen. Have you seen all the Raiders have drafted?
Yeah, this is not the non-exclusive tag either. So I mean, he's there either on a 1-year deal or until he forces a trade or something.
By the way, Lamar Jackson.
By the way, can we talk about how bad the franchise tag is for running backs? Because you got a first-round running back, you can essentially hold them for their whole freaking career.
Dude, $10 million on a franchise tag?
Yeah.
Oh, it's like less than a tight end tag.
It
It's
is.
insanity.
It's $1 million less than the tight end tag.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's only like $4 million more than the kicker punter tag, I think, which is just insanity.
I'm waiting for I'm waiting for players.
Too, so.
Yeah, I'm waiting for players that are running backs to start claiming their wide receivers.
They already tried. That was the old Le'Veon Bell move. Le'Veon Bell tried to get reclassified with all his receptions as a wide receiver, so that he could get tagged and get another $8 million on the tag.
What do you think Debo's so pissed off right now? He's like, I don't want that many carries. I don't want to be running
Jimmy
back.
Graham's the one that Jimmy Graham's the one that came to mind too, because he tried to get reclassed from tight end to wide receiver.
He should
when he was with New Orleans.
The guy can't play. The guy can't block like a tight end, so you might as well
right.
Well, no, I think you can't set a pick on the line.
Yeah, I was going to say at some point, I think they're going to have to make an adjustment to that and make like a general running back, wide receiver, tight end pool where they all kind of count towards something. I just think at some point they're going to have to figure that out.
That may end up hurting running backs there too, because no one's going to want to pay a top 5, wide receiver salary to a running back.
No, but it'll prevent them from tagging them and let them into the free agent market.
That's the only thing is
and they could make less there. I mean.
But that's where
I agree with you guys. I'm there that this is bad, but this again, this is the NFL telling us very clearly again that they don't value running backs the way
right. And I just
disposable to them.
Feel for you're a running back that comes out early at 21. You come out as a junior.
Yep.
And you're on a 4-year rookie deal. Let's say you're not a first-round pick because most of them are. You're on a 4-year rookie deal. You're 25. If you get a second contract, you're looking 3 years for most guys of either second contract or bouncing around the league, and 5 if you're elite before you're done.
I'm shocked we're seeing more people do running back. I like, to be honest, it's so shocking that we're seeing a talent pool of running backs just given, especially through college now, which is obviously I think we're gonna start seeing it change more.
We are.
Of why would these guys?
Oh yeah.
Put their bodies on the line more than in any other besides interior positions.
Yeah.
And get paid like shit, and then they're thrown to the side as you just mentioned at 25. Even when they get their contract, look at Delvin Cook.
Paid like shit. I'll go I'll go be a running back for $10 million.
Well, of course we would. I mean, that's the height of their career. Yeah,
but that's the thing too, right? That's still life-changing money for a lot for.
I don't want to play running back. I'll pass.
So. It's still life-changing.
I want to be a clipboard holder.
If that's how you get there, that's how you get there. But it's just comparatively to other positions, it really sucks that.
This is more so from the high end. I agree for middle tier, you're just gonna take what you get. But the highly touted recruits, the guys that can play multi positions, it's where you could see that drop up come from. Guys moving on to either play safety or defensive back or playing wide receiver.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you look at the combine last week, this is a really good example of this. You saw, everybody's kind of complaining about guys being a little small at wide receiver and running back, a little bit slower than in the past. But then if you watch the safeties and DBs, All those guys
like
were
4-3s,
great size.
4-4s,
Everybody was
yeah.
running a 4-3, 4-4. And I think that's where you found these guys are like, hey, instead of, I grew up wanting to play offense because offense was the cool spot to play. I think all these guys are realizing the money's at DB. The money's if you're a shutdown corner, and you're seeing a lot of these guys switch and go when they go to college, go to the defensive side of the ball instead of offense because they realize they can make more. And they don't beat themselves up as much playing on the outside. I mean, I was just watching those DB drills, and I'm like,
oh my god,
all the athletes are on defense. All these guys are playing cornerback. Everybody was 6'2", 205, running a 4-3 on defense. It was crazy.
Shit. Hell, the glut of wide receivers are between 4.45 and 4.5.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. I think these guys realize DB is where you can really make money. I mean,
right.
You're going to see a ton of cornerbacks go in this first round, and that's going to just show you're going to get probably more cornerbacks go in the first round than wide receivers and running backs combined.
Or defensive end too, right? You get these hyper athletes at defensive end, and I
like Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry. If Derrick Henry's a high school kid right now, he's going to college and playing D end. He's playing D end. There's no way he goes to college and plays running back. He's like, that's not where the money's at. I go and I'm going to play D end, and I'm going to get drafted really high, and I'm going to run a 4.45 at 235 or 40 pounds, and I'm going to be a top 10 pick.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So Jacobs will be in Vegas. Jacksonville franchise tagged Evan Ingram. So
that's a surprise. Smart move.
Very, very smart move. $11 million to franchise tag him. They'll work on a long-term deal. But even if not, I mean, he finally put together a season we thought he was capable of. Well, really the first one since his rookie season.
Just 5 years later.
Yeah. So good on him and good on Jacksonville. I think they'll get to a long-term deal here too. I don't think he plays on the tag.
Let's hope so, because you have what might be the strongest tight end class
this tight end
we've seen
class
since his class.
Yeah,
like even then it's high end and depth in this class compared to 2017 was just very high end.
It's even more insane after I worked up the athletic numbers.
Yeah, crazy combine stat on Ingram. I saw this the other day. I didn't know this. He ran a 4.43.
Yes, he did.
At his size at the combine, just insanity. I did not. I remember him being a good athlete, but I never remember him being that fast.
Now we got crazy. Luke Musgrave, who's now basically him and Mike Gesicki.
Dan, you remember us talking about Ingram during that rookie sesh, and the possibility of him even moving outside at 4.43.
I thought maybe you would. I thought maybe you go to Mike Evans. And in hindsight, maybe you should have. Like, we're talking about a position that also is grossly underpaid and screwed over. Is the tight end spot.
Yeah. Tight ends at least have a lot of longevity if you're really good at it. Or even if you're not. I mean, look at some of those blocking tight ends and how long they've been around. So, tight ends do have a lot more longevity than running backs, at least.
They do.
But,
they do.
Yeah, they don't take the hits like running backs do.
No, they don't.
Well, when they're blocking, they can. They're getting a lot of people going at their knees.
Yeah. Calvin Ridley reinstated by the NFL after his year off for gambling.
Good for him. Did you guys read the article he put out?
I did not.
About it?
I did read it. It was pretty good. He was pretty honest. I think it makes sense. He's a guy who a lot of people knew him growing up, said this guy had a really tough upbringing. And the fact that he even made it to college was a damn near a miracle. So I can absolutely see where he was coming from. A guy that was lonely, depressed.
Yeah.
And again, I think everybody's like, how did you know you can't gamble on sports? Like, what? I legitimately think that he was just not even thinking about it. The way he said it, he was like, it was stupid. I was putting in a parlay on a bunch of other sports, and then I just randomly threw the Falcons in there because I wanted to support my team. Now, it sounds dumb. It sounds idiotic with all that's on the line, but it's actually kind of fathomable.
Well,
like, if you think about it, like a lot of these guys, man, they don't have the people around them,
the idiotic part about this.
Good decisions.
But the idiotic part about this is he bet on his team to win in a game he wasn't playing in because he was away from the team. And I think if you're not playing in it, what the hell's the problem?
I still think this a year for gambling, him putting on the team. I mean, that was just a ridiculous. I mean, that was ridiculous. I think they definitely could have went about that a whole nother way. I mean, gambling's here to stay. Everybody knows it. It's about time the NFL and all these other leagues have finally agreed. Yeah, that's my thing. They could have gave him like a 2-game suspension, give him a big fine, being like, "Hey, man, this was really stupid." I mean, it's not a situation where it's like, "Hey, dude, he was, put in like that's on the sideline during a game."
Yeah.
It's not like it's not like they look back and he made like, a ton of bets on NFL games in the last 2-3 years. It was a one-time only a bet. I mean, he's an NFL player. He put $1,500 in his account. This guy's obviously not betting crazy. It's not like he put $1 million on the game or something. I mean, guy had $1,500 in his total account. I mean, he obviously was a new bettor. It's obviously was something that was stupid and dumb, and they should have treated it like, hey, this is a dumb move by a kid in his 20s. Like, not the, oh my God, the integrity of the game's on the line over a freaking 16 parlay for $100. Yeah,
I was just gonna say this isn't Pete Rose.
It's a completely different situation.
Or Tim Donaghy. Yeah.
Man, that documentary was wild. I don't know if you guys ever saw that. That was crazy.
I have not watched it yet. I need to.
If you get a chance to watch it, it's pretty. It's pretty.
I got ESPN Plus. I'll be bored later tonight. Saints signed Derek Carr, 4-year deal, $150 million. So he lands in New Orleans. Dan called it. Not surprised here. Be interesting to see what happens around him and how they make the cap money. They did restructure Taysom Hill's deal. Michael Thomas, they're about to extend, quote unquote, so that'll probably be a restructure as well. But interested to see how they work that out and what fits around him. Obviously it's an upgrade for Olave. If Michael Thomas is healthy, he'll be very intriguing again as we get into redraft, and you'll have another sell window in Dynasty. All you can hope for. Cowboys franchise tag Tony Pollard, so also at $10 million. This is bigger news because it means Dalton Schultz is not franchise tagged and will actually hit the open market.
So they can draft the replacement, Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah.
God, I can't wait. Please make it happen.
No, they won't do it.
This is forever a Dalton Kincaid.
Hendershot?
I don't
Dalton
care.
Kincaid's better than Hendershot. Like, I like Hendershot, but if you have an opportunity at Dalton Kincaid, you don't pass on that because you have Peyton Hendershot.
I can't wait for the Cowboys to really seek. That's where I'm at. Just let him walk. They're going to be, Jerry Jones is going to draft.
He'll restructure
if he's available.
He'll restructure on the cheap.
It's going to happen.
They're definitely going to take Bijan.
They're taking Bijan.
They already said it. If he was there, they're taking him.
They're taking him. And then it's going to be Tony Pollard on that 1-year deal. And then we're all going to keep waiting why Tony Pollard hasn't gotten a shot to be. I love Tony Pollard.
It's a totally Jerry Jones.
Or it's going to piss all the Bijan owners off because Tony Pollard's eating into his workload.
It's good. I can't wait to watch this shit show that Jerry Jones again creates because he makes bad decisions.
Yeah. Speaking of favorite quarterbacks and mediocre quarterbacks, Patriots released Brian Hoyer, saving them $290,000 against the Cavs.
He was. I didn't know he's on the team still.
Yeah, third stringer.
Good for Brian Hoyer. He carved out a long career for himself.
37. He'll catch on as a starter somewhere. He's going to go start for the Texans.
Yeah. He's going to go play in the XFL.
We've done that already.
Oh my God.
I saw his last start for the Colts, and it was brutal. Real bad. And that was probably 2 years ago.
You should go to San Francisco, and then we can have another 45-minute rant.
There was one time we had a 45-minute rant when he was on the Niners, and
he was the starter.
Literally, Dan and I. This is when I still lived in Springfield, so Dan and I were probably drinking for 45 minutes before we recorded.
This is a third episode. This is our third. We did back to back to back. You and I were fucking hammered.
You and I had been drinking from beforehand too. We were hammered, and we just went 45 minutes on Hoyer.
Nick was so mad. He's like, "You guys spent 45 minutes on Brian fucking Hoyer." I'm like, "Oh, it's Brian fucking Hoyer, man."
Brian Hoyer. I made a convincing argument that he was.
I don't
good.
know why like him and I think Kyle Rudolph are both the infamous lawn rants for no reason.
The White Lightning episode, where just anytime we talked about a white guy.
That's a good song too.
Thanks, Jordy Nelson.
And James White for the nickname.
Well, it's Jordy Nelson's nickname.
That's right. It was Jordy Nelson.
I just played it for James White, and Nick's like, that doesn't even make sense anymore.
Yeah.
YouTube's gonna hate that, but we're gonna do it anyway. All right. So, you want to do beer now, or do you want to get?
We should do a beer review now. I'm on beer 2, so
I'm almost out. So good.
That doesn't say something about the
Beer review.
It does say something about the beer. Why don't you tell us about the beer?
So again, this is Ravina's food truck. This is their Pilsner. They say this batch features sunshine, and then I'm assuming made with Pilsen malts, 4.9%, 23 IBUs. This is a more bright forward Pilsner. Very, very, very delicious. Not so heavy on the bittering with the hops, which is typically why I tend to, for some reason, I love bitter in IPAs, not so much in Pilsners, but this one just hits differently. Maybe because it's super cold, but it's a it's a style that if I'm not drinking NAs, which has been my biggest kick lately, it's been lager. So absolutely solid all around. And I'm wondering why I found them in Marion, Illinois, and I can't find them anywhere else. Like, how are you from Chicago and I can't find you in any of the main downstate cities, but I can find you in Marion?
They've got a really strange distributor.
It's
somebody real small.
Or it's like a friend of a friend. Like maybe they're self-distro and like a friend of a friend. Like that's how like Yingling has ended up in like, Cali for so long, is that, family friend was able to get distribution.
Hey, we got
for
Yingling
it.
in Missouri now.
You do?
Yeah.
I see it all over the place. I was in Cape Girardeau on Tuesday.
Wow.
I almost bought it. And I almost had it on the show.
Lindsay was in a Schnucks over in Creve Coeur last weekend and almost picked some up for me. I'll be over there, I don't know, sometime this weekend.
I'll be in Springfield, beginning of April.
Missouri?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. I had the extra special Brewster from Blind Pigs. This is ESB. So first off, the malt character is definitely there. It's lightly toasty. It's lightly caramely. It's not too heavy in anything. It finishes nice and dry, which is what you expect. This is supposed to be a very drinkable beer. It is a very drinkable beer. Light amount of bitterness there. Bitter is kind of a misnomer with British beers. They're bitter, but they're definitely not like IPA bitter or anything like that. Taking away a little bit, just some things to notice. It's not quite as clean as I would expect from an ESB. Just not quite as crisp. It's a little bit heavier on the body, even though, like I said, it finishes dry. So you do want to come back for more. Body's a little bit heavier than I'd expect. Not quite as crisp as I'd expect. There's a lot of sediment in it, which I wouldn't expect out of an ESB. I didn't hard pour this or anything, and it's pretty cloudy, and you can actually like kind of see up around like the rim of the glass or whatever where it's stuck there. So I don't know if there's a packaging issue here or what's up with that, but a little bit more sediment, a little bit more head than I'd expect. So, technically speaking, if I put on the BJCP hat, which I don't always like doing, technically speaking, there's some things off here, but overall, I still drank it really, really quick. The malt flavor is still there. It's exactly what I want when I pick up a light like malty beer. I want something that I can drink that's not going to be overly filling, too heavy, and has a good amount of flavor. And it definitely hits those notes. So, I'm not disappointed. There's just, some things that I think keep it from being, holy shit, this is fantastic.
All right, and I had Rogue, Out of Line, West Coast Indian Pale Ale. Definitely like all my other pale ales or my West Coast style ones. Tropical, citrusy, very more tropical though. And the citrusy is like you feel more on the back end of it, so it kind of gives you that grapefruit tang. A little bit of bitter, more bitter too, and then an aftertaste of piney, which seems kind of weird. But like as it gets warmer, it starts getting more piney and more like I start getting more cottonmouth compared when it's ice cold. It's like more
It
grapefruit,
was
smooth.
northwest.
What's that?
Yeah.
Northwest.
Rogue is in Portland?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oregon.
That
Yeah,
that makes
yeah.
sense that it's piney. That's kind of classic West Coast.
That is very traditional West Coast.
Yeah, very, very traditional West Coast hops there. That's where you're getting piney out of it.
Okay.
Dustin, you want to review your beer?
You want to review your
Yeah,
own beer?
I'll talk about my beer a little bit. So
You
again,
want to
I'm
review
drinking,
your own beer? It's the
I'm
worst
drinking,
fucking beer ever.
I'm drinking a Small Town Hero American IPA. We make this one with a few different hops, little Simcoe, Mosaic, and Citra. So we tried to add a little brightness to it. We try to do a little that more of a West Coast style on this, a little more traditional, but then we try to add some of those, a little bit of citrus hops in there to give it a little bit of that flavor without actually putting any kind of extra flavoring in there. I know some people ask us sometimes, like, oh, it's got like a little citrus, a little this. I'm like, it's the hops. We didn't add any pineapple. We didn't add anything else to it. We wanted a pretty traditional one, but we wanted something bright that you could drink a summer IPA. So that's again, it's like I said, it's a rarity. Maybe we'll come out with it again as we made it for the Seaman Family Foundation for Jason Seaman at Noblesville High School and middle school in Indiana. So great beer for great cause. It's just a nice IPA.
Awesome story. I'm now following Justin's lead and drinking my own beer. So you got my Scottish Light. Sorry, technically award-winning Scottish Light.
You should, yeah, man. I mean, I talked about it with Tor, but I didn't make the beer, but I fucking praise it. You
Okay.
should be praising your own beer.
Fine, I made the beer. Award-winning Scottish Light.
There you go.
So actually, this has been my go-to beer for like the last 2 weeks, just because it's a light. It's Scottish Light, so it's 3.2%, but it actually has flavors. So it's like a perfect after-work beer.
Very nice.
Anyway, let's combine dying over here.
Let's do it.
Where'd that go? Oh, it's highlighted.
Combine breakdown.
All right, we're gonna round table position by position and just kind of go through some things. So, as we work through, I'll go ahead and kick it off. There were really two big stories in the quarterback realm over the weekend, at least that I was picking up on. The biggest one, of course, was Anthony Richardson, and I don't think that there's a quarterback that helped himself more at the combine by most accounts and most post-combine mock drafts. He has leapfrogged Will Levis, and is going top 10 between how good he did in athletic drills. We talked before the combine about how it's really hard for a quarterback to really change their stock in athletic drills. Anthony Richardson made himself the exception to that. And the early accounts of him knocking interviews out of the park also really, really bode well for him. He has solidified himself this year, in my opinion, as kind of the the raw prospect that you're going to go after. I knew it wasn't Will Levis, who Levis kind of reminded me of like what Carson Strong was a couple years back, where people just
Ryan Mallett
were super high on him with the big arm and everything, and then I didn't see it. Richardson, though, I think is the true where we land with what Malik Willis was or Trey Lance was. These raw prospects that have that are very, very toolsy, very, very athletic. That you want to see land someplace like Seattle, where there's development opportunity, but not somebody locked in ahead of him.
I think he goes 101. I think whoever I think this is so. I was listening to Matt Kelly's
bold take.
Yeah, I was listening to to Matt Kelly talk about this on one of his podcasts, and this mirroring the 2018 class of Baker versus Josh Allen in this sense, where you have Bryce John's Baker and you have Richardson as Josh Allen in this sense, where you have your strong you can't teach size and athleticism, toolsy quarterback that's just super raw. It just needs work.
Yeah, but what do you
We
do?
can see that.
Where does
We can
Stroud fall into that though? Right? Does he leave
Stroud's still
both of
top
them?
10.
Yeah. Does he
I do
leapfrog
think
both,
I do
though?
think he lost both. I think a team's gonna fall in love with Richardson more than Stroud. And
Really?
I think Young is gonna be the where it fights the most. Young plays for the right school. Young had a great, counting stats. He had a fantastic year with very little wide receiver help. That's where I think the hurdle is. But I just wouldn't be shocked, and I'm calling it now, that whoever trades with Chicago is going to take Richardson. They're going to go for upside. They're going to go for upside. I don't know if it's the right call. I'm not saying it's the right call.
I'm about to disagree.
He has 12 games underneath his belt as a true actual starter, and okay, he started in the SEC, and then I like to compare him to Trey Lance. And Trey Lance was the FBS version of this. He's got a hell of an arm. He's got the legs. He's just super raw. So it's like, do you really want someone who only has the 12 games? I mean, look at Mitch Trubisky. He was the same way. He had 12 games at North Carolina.
Teams are going to say this. It's going to be, do we want Josh Allen or do we want Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, I don't agree. I don't agree with those comparisons, though. The other problem here as well. Like, I don't. The thing with Matt Kelly, and I love him because he's such an interesting take on things, is that the shtick is he's such an interesting take on things. So, it's not. I'm not saying he's the counselor by any means, because he's not.
No.
Nobody's that dumb. But
and they're not one-for-one comparisons. It's just comparing the years of why we could see this.
Yeah.
Not more so the player comparison where Bryce Young is equal to Baker Mayfield, or Richardson is equal to Josh Allen. It's the same type of similar, feel, and we could see teams make the different decision because of what happened between the two in 18. It's a hot take for being a bold take. It's spicy.
I'm a total CJ Stroud guy. I love CJ Stroud. I think he's the best QB by far. I'm a Colts season ticket holder, so I'll get that out of the way before I go here. I want to see the Colts take Stroud.
Don't take Will Levis, please. Just don't take Levis.
If the Colts, I've already told people, if the Colts take Levis, I don't even know if I can go to a game next year. I can't do it. He is Ryan Mallett. He's Jake Locker. He's all those guys that had an arm and looked good and had the size, but is just not good.
He does look good in shorts, he does look good in shorts.
Yeah, he does. But here's the thing is, I watched a lot of tape of him, and the biggest issue with me is he throws off his back foot all the time. He never steps into throws. He uses his arm to make plays, and that is just a recipe for disaster.
The biggest issue for me is that he's late on everything.
Yeah, exactly. So he has bad timing, and then he tries to make up for that bad timing with his arm and overthrow every ball. And if you watch the combine drills with him, dude, he was just chucking the ball at every wide receiver in every drill. I mean, there was drills where guys were looking at him like, dude, you don't have to throw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball when I'm running, comeback.
Where's MJD when you need him to come out there and do what he did to Tyree Jackson and tell him to chill the fuck out?
Yeah, it's just so. I mean, I'm out on Levis. I think it's crazy. I saw some of his stats and some of the things as far as like measurables, and they're the same as Sam Howell, who actually produced in college, who I actually like a ton, and he didn't. Would he not go to like the fourth or fifth round?
Fifth rounder.
Fifth rounder. Yeah. So my thing is, like, if you're out on Sam Howell and he's not going to the fifth, how can you talk yourself into Will Levis as a top 10 QB? It makes zero sense to me. I just don't understand it at all.
I am.
I
don't
know if
this
is some kind of smoke screen. I mean, I could see Levis taking a monster Malik Willis drop in the draft, and all of a sudden everybody's talking about top 10, then he doesn't go to the third round. To me, that would make more sense. I just don't see how you pass on all those guys last year, and then all of a sudden you and again, people want to talk about like, he didn't have a lot of players around him in Kentucky. Oh, blah blah blah. Dude, there's guys that have put up. I mean, Antoine Randall L almost won a Heisman at Indiana,
and then converted to wide receiver.
Yeah, but exactly. So, but I was saying, there's plenty of guys that produce in college with not the best talent around them. Plus, Kentucky. I mean, people want to rip that they had nobody. They had Wan'Dale Robinson last year. They have it's I'm forgetting his face name, but it's Brown. He's going to be a sophomore. He was great as a freshman. They've got some talent there. So to act like he was just playing with nobody doesn't make any sense. And if you look at a lot of his interceptions, you go back and look at the tape. A ton of them are because he's late on throws, he's behind receivers, and he throws the ball too hard where it's bouncing off guys' hands into picks. And that's happening in college. That's going to be a big problem in the NFL to me. I feel like he's a turnover machine waiting to happen in the NFL.
Yeah. He's bad. It's so obvious that like if he goes top 10, it's going to be such a hard bust. It just feels like, just like he's Mason Rudolph. He is, Sam Darnold. Just why? He looks good in shorts, and he does throw a pretty deep ball. He does have a live arm. That's it. He's painful to watch. As someone who doesn't watch film, I don't love film. He is painful.
Yeah, it is. I mean, even the highlight,
6 years
the
I've
highlights
learned,
aren't even good.
Painful to watch.
That's what I'm saying. I watched his highlight video, and his highlight video, I was like, I'm picking the highlight video part. I'm like, this is the highlights? I hate to see the bad stuff. I mean, every throw was off the back foot, falling away.
He has
I was just like, oh.
How did I describe it? He's like baby giraffe meets deer in the headlights because he has no sense for pressure either. But Anthony Richardson, Dan, I can't back to it. I'm going to disagree at 1 overall. I'm going to agree that if he was top 7 or top 8, I'm not surprised at all because that's where I see him being mocked. And I think you now have three
He's
guys.
top 10 for sure. He's
three guys that are surefire to go top 10 and potentially even top 6. I think that he brought that a lot closer. I don't think that he jumps Young or Stroud, but I think he brought himself a lot closer.
Yeah. I'm just saying don't be shocked. I'm just saying don't.
I will be.
I think a good landing spot for Richardson would be like Carolina. I think Carolina could sign Sam Darnold to like a 1 or 2 year deal, short contract, bring him back, let him start a year, and let Richardson sit behind him, and then all of a sudden he ends up, because again, if you're Carolina, Sam Darnold was actually pretty decent at the beginning of the year before he got hurt. He got off to a pretty good start before he got hurt. I mean, he's not your long-term answer, but he's somebody you
had an okay finish too.
Richardson's ready. Yeah, he was not terrible at the end. And I think, if you end up being bad in your Carolina, it only helps you. Now you're getting higher draft picks for when you want to start Richardson. I mean, Richardson's got the build. He looks great. I'm worried about him. I mean, just a guy, he was at 53% completion percentage in college. And that was a big part of it.
That's absolutely
there was like 3 games. He had like 3 really good games. And he had a ton of games where he was under 50% completion for the game. I think it was 7 or 8 I counted out of the 12 he played in that he was under 50% completion percentage. So I just think, that just doesn't get fixed overnight. Can it?
No.
Yes. Is he young? Yes. Is he raw? Yes. But again, you've got to be a team that's willing to say, hey, we're 3 years out on this guy, 2 or 3 years before he's even playable or before he's good. Maybe he gets on a team and he just makes a ton of progress out of nowhere. But I think if you start him right away, I think you're just begging to ruin his career.
Yeah,
100% agree on that.
I agree on that.
It won't take him. It's going to take him longer than a year. This is going to, he is a beyond 1 year project. I do think he should.
And I don't
he
think
should play year 1 at all.
Overall pick on a project.
The Kansas City Chiefs did.
I mean,
with Mahomes, he sat the whole entire
the Bills
season.
spent the top 7 pick. The Niners spent. I mean, Lance is
the
top 3.
7 pick. Yes,
Rams spent the top. I'm not Rams. Niners spent the top 3 pick on
in a weak quarterback
project.
Class.
That was the Lawrence class. That was considered the strongest class in 2 decades.
What, Lance?
Yes, because that was the Lawrence, and Fields, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones draft class. That was considered. And
I was looking at the wrong class.
I don't think this will happen. I'm saying I will not be shocked if it does. That's what a hot take is, right?
I was looking at the wrong class. I was looking at the Murray class earlier. For different reasons. So that's because
Daniel Jones, maybe?
No, it's because the Bryce Young basically coming in as
Bryce
exactly
Young's not
Kyler.
Kyler Murray. He's not Kyler
No,
Murray.
he's measurable.
He's a lot smaller than Kyler Murray. Like when you look
That's
at
the only
side
thing
by
that's
side.
actually different because Murray was also a high-end two-sport athlete.
Yeah.
Jan wishes he was like it's painful to watch Jan run.
Young,
to me,
he ran.
Watching him slide, it's like, dude,
Young, you gotta hate
Joe Flacco.
Hate it when my quarterbacks can't slide.
It's like, who you, Joe Flacco?
They gotta have good play action too. Brad Kaya.
Right. Brad Kaya.
But no, the thing with Young, and I purely said it from measurables, he's 5'10", over 200. But Young, look, people are going to make a big deal about the height, and it's going to depend on where he lands, because if you land in somebody that's an idiot, like Nagy was with Trubisky, you're not going to get what you want out of this. Young is somebody that you're going to have to scheme for. You're going to have to move pockets. He's really good when he's improvising. He's really good when he's playing playground ball. And to me, there was a lot of Russell Wilson in the way that he played that way. Russell Wilson, also high-end two-sport athlete, I get it. But there was a lot of Russell Wilson in the way that he played quarterback as a passer and being able to extend plays, keep them alive, keep eyes downfield, move the pocket, sense pressure, and make that happen. I'm not really concerned about the height because a smart OC will be able to scheme with that because of the athleticism. Yeah, he looks painful to run. He's good lateral and he's agile.
He's the one I could see actually going 101, and I see the Colts actually would be trading up for him.
I think he does. Again,
I do too.
Hot take that we've gone so far. Yes, I do think Jan is. I think the true conversation is who goes, QB2 between Stroud and Richardson, which could be back-to-back picks.
I still think it's
there's a lot of
QB2s, but I still think it's Young, Stroud, Richardson, and then probably Levis and Hooker as fourth or fifth quarterbacks.
And I'm with Josh. I am Team Stroud. Like Richardson does
like
to me
Stroud
have the
a lot.
most upside. Stroud is the guy that I really want.
Yeah,
and I would love to see. I love Stroud. So
I just think Stroud, as a Colts fan, I'd like to see him on there, but I also think fantasy-wise, it makes him way more relevant. I think him on the Colts with who they have around there in that offensive line and a healthy JT coming back, I think it makes him a pretty fantasy-relevant player. On the Texans, I got to be honest, if he's on the Texans, I don't like him as much. I just
doesn't have playmakers.
For fantasy upside,
No.
I just don't see it at all.
he's throwing the Nico Collins.
I'm worried about Bryce Young on size. It's just getting beat up. I know he weighed in over 200. I still think that they did everything in their power to get him to 200 because that guy is not that big. I mean, you have him stand next to anyone. He is just a skinny dude. I mean, he is definitely going to be playing about 181, 185 max. I just don't see him actually being able to be at that 200 pounds because he's just not that big of a guy. I mean, you look him standing next to Kyler Murray, man. Kyler Murray looks double the size of CJ or as Young, even though they're technically like 6 pounds difference. Kyler Murray looks a lot bigger than CJ or than Young. I'm sorry, and I just really worried. I think the guy's got talent. I'm not banging his talent. My worry is if he ends up on a bad team with a bad O-line, I'm worried he gets beat to shreds, and then it just kills his confidence in that guy that's standing back there at Alabama slinging it becomes a Derek Carr or not Derek Carr,
Baker Mayfield.
Brother. Yeah, becomes a guy that starts getting scared and falling away and throwing passes, and all of a sudden he doesn't look very good because he's just rattled.
Yeah. I think and I like Bryce Young. I do have my concerns.
I like him as a player. He was a great college player. I'm not hating on him at all. I just if I'm a GM taking a 1-1, I'm real nervous about that because again, it's not like you're taking Michael Vick. He was basically his size. I still think slightly bigger, but Michael Vick was just a superior athlete. Where Young is a really good quarterback, but I don't think he's a superior athlete.
No, he's
No, not at all.
yeah.
I still think you're going to see this go Young, Stroud, Richardson.
Yeah, no, I agree. He played for the right school. I joke about it, but there is a real Bama tax.
There is.
Like he is. and they'll call up Nick Saban, and Nick Saban will
Brag about
praise
how
him
great he
because
is.
Yun is a great leader, great locker room guy. Like, I think Yun will succeed for as long as he, can stay healthy, can protect himself, and lands in an
And dude
offense
took
that
some.
is.
Dude was not taking hits. He took some hits, and
I
to
know,
come
which
out of
is
it with only the
scary
the
too.
shoulder injury from an awkward landing.
Yeah,
Okay, like
he
Yeah.
takes a beating, and I mean, with all quarterbacks, you want to see that taken less.
the only other thing I have on quarterbacks that I want to shout out here, for me is kind of I'm intrigued now. And I want to shout out Clayton Tune. Is somebody that I'm watching a little bit closer. I still need to do film work up on him, but he checked in at 6'3", 220, second most athletic quarterback in this class by workout metrics and in player profiler. 4.64 on the 40, 126 burst, 11.14 agility score. Threw for over 11,000 yards. He's 23, so he's not old. Threw for over 11,000 yards in his college career. He threw for 104 touchdowns in his college career, which I believe was second highest out of players I vetted behind Tyson Bagent. Close to a 64 career completion percentage. Interception percentage is a little high. It was 6.9 touchdown percentage, 2.7 interception percentage, and he rushed for over 1,200 yards in his college career as well. So he's kind of the guy that I'm watching is like, what we did Bailey Zappi last year. That I'm interested to see where he lands is kind of this like second tier, probably going to be a backup. Could be fun if he's pressed into starting duty type guy. There's always a couple of those a year that I tend to like, and we'll see how I feel after I do the film on Clayton Tune. But from what I've seen statistically and athletically, I'm definitely interested in him.
I like Tune. I like Tune a lot. He was super productive. I mean, he's the opposite of Will Levis in that he was crazy productive at Houston. The guy just made plays. I think he's definitely a late round guy to look at. I think Bailey Zappi, I think is a good comp to him. I think he's actually a little bit bigger, a little more athletic than Bailey Zappi.
I agree.
So I like him there. A guy that I'm sneaky. I don't know if he ever is a starter in the league, but I think a guy can maybe carve out a place is the former UCLA quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
Yeah.
I like some stuff on him. I still think he's a guy that maybe is a 6th, 7th round pick. I've seen a lot of people talking about him with the Steelers. If they move on from Mitch and they move on from Rudolph, that maybe he's a guy you bring in with your 6th or 7th round pick and see if maybe he can play behind Pickett and be a solid guy in the future. But he's a guy I think has a decent upside. A lot of people didn't see him play because he played at UCLA. And, you just get that West Coast bias for people that watch those late games. But I watch a lot of those late games being a bar guy and a night guy. I watch a lot of those. I actually thought he's intriguing. I don't know if he ever starts in the league, but I think he's a guy that could definitely be a solid 2 and could end up having a pretty good career. And that he wouldn't kill you if your starter went down. He'd be able to come in and do some things. But yeah, those are probably the 2 guys I like the most in that second tier is Tune and Robinson. But I mean, I'm taking Hendon Hooker over Levis at this point. If
I am too.
Got a 2nd round pick, I'd wait and take him. But that's just me. I'll get off Will Levis now.
No.
Actually, no.
I'm also
being on Hendon Hooker right now is perfect.
I'm also Hooker over Levis, and then the 3 guys. There's a 3rd guy I'm looking at that I don't think did well. He did some combine drills. Didn't necessarily check out huge athletically, but was a huge passing producer. Smaller school is Tyson Bagent's the other one that at least him, DTR, and Tune are the next 3 that I'm watching to kind of figure out where I think they fall, just based on statistical profiles, college productivity, that type of stuff. I completely agree with you on Thompson Robinson. 10,000 yard passer. He was also 63 plus completion percentage, very, very similar touchdown percentage in numbers to what Tune had, but rushed for 600 more yards in his career and 13 more rushing touchdowns. So a little bit more rushing productivity there. 1,800 yards is nothing to sneeze at. The only person in the class that had more rush yards out of the people I vetted was Hendon Hooker. So Thompson's like,
when I want to see
right
where he
behind
lands,
that. Yeah,
I want to see him go to Philly. I want to see him back. back up somebody that plays very, he's obviously not hurt size, but very, a similar play style.
I saw
Baltimore if they move on from Huntley.
I saw Mariota to Philly take earlier today that I didn't hate.
Just he's like you guys said, he's obviously not going to be a full-time starter, but if you can get some Brent Hundley production, where you get some rushing production on top of some throwing, where like even if he's not a great passer, because of you still have to respect his legs, it's these guys can find fantasy production when they're thrown into those starting roles due to injuries.
Yeah.
So
anything
good
else?
Shout out.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Anything else on quarterbacks from the combine before we go to running backs?
Fuck Will Levis.
I heard was it like speaking of Dorian Thomas, like we all saw how good he was for like UCLA. Like I would watch some West Coast games, but I heard he had a horrible combine. I wasn't able to watch it, but I heard his combine was actually horrible. Is that actually true, Jonathan?
He had a really bad burst. He had apparently his agility drills were pretty rough. You're in a 4.56 40, which is
it was the agility drills that threw him off. But I mean, it's quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, he just wasn't a workout wonder. I mean, I think he's one of those guys that is a solid QB, but I don't think anybody really thought he was going to go in there and just blow the combine away. I don't think that's necessarily the type of quarterback he is. I just think he's one of those guys. He's got a solid framework. He's been good in college for a couple of years. I just think he's got that ability to kind of carve out a niche in the NFL. But yeah, he wasn't great. He wasn't terrible. He just, he just didn't do anything that was like, shock and awe.
That wasn't Anthony Richardson type of style.
Exactly. Everybody saw Richardson, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, look at all the things he's doing," and all the other guys who were just kind of average, everybody just kind of ignored. So I don't think he had a bad combine. I just don't think he did anything that like really stood out.
Right.
He wasn't Anthony Richardson.
Pretty much, he wasn't.
They're all being comped to it. Like it's not really their fault, but I mean, we just historically watched one of the greatest quarterback workouts ever.
Yep.
Because it's funny because I run like a rookie mock drafts over at Faceoff Sports Network, and as soon as Anthony Richardson hit, he went from being like the 107, 108, and I had him started going as high as 102, 103 in Superflex mock drafts.
I think
it's freaking nuts.
I think for fantasy, I think it's not the worst call to go high and upside. I don't know if I'm there yet because I'm
not there yet.
The safety or the floor concerns by missing out on that high of a pick, but I get it. I don't hate it.
Richardson's a guy who, in a 1 QB league, I'm probably jumping on a little bit later just because of the upside of him. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know if I could jump on him that early.
I can't take him over Stroud.
Right? Superflex. I couldn't take him over Stroud. There's no way.
Too much safety in Stroud, but dude, the upside is tantalizing for it's Hopper knows it's much upside.
Yeah, if you can sit on him,
it's wet dream upside.
It is a wet dream upside. Yeah. It's Josh Allen all over again. Apparently,
like I said, 1 QB where you can sit on him and he ends up blowing up, you look like a genius. But in Superflex, where you're taking a guy that high, you're basically counting on him to play and give you production. And I'm just like, I mean, I guess if you aren't a 3 or 4 year rebuild on your dynasty team, then maybe it's worth it. You take him because you're like, hey, I'm going to suck for the next couple of years anyway, and I don't need him to produce. Maybe I do it, but man, it's scary. It's scary.
Going to be
very
scary. Upside, but it's scary.
It's going to be the floor versus upside debate on him. I think all off season.
All right. Moving on to running backs, I'm going to start this one off and get a little hot takey, I guess. We're going to start with Bijan. So if you listen to last week's episode before, we were talking Bijan, I kind of mentioned, that productivity-wise, basically what I said was I didn't see anything with Bijan as to why some people had him as the dynasty RB1 before he ever took a snap in the NFL. From watching his college film, looking at his college stats, I thought that, he was very, very good, but I also thought that, what I saw was more Josh Jacobs than it was Jonathan Taylor, or Breece Hall. And then what I said was that, I was looking to the combine to kind of change that and bump it up, that I wanted to see him, go Breece Hall or Jonathan Taylor on some of these workouts. And ultimately that didn't happen. solid across the board, just like the film is solid across the board, and Bijan is solid across the board. He is my RB1. He's not in his own tier like guys were the last couple of years for me. I think that Gibbs did enough running sub 4.3 and also checking in at a BMI that was 29.4, which is not it's not 30.5, but it's not bad. Everybody's like, Gibbs didn't hit 200. He hit 199. You gonna make that big of a deal out of 2 pounds or 1 pound or whatever.
His playing weight probably not even 199. His playing weight is probably less than that.
Yeah, but he hit 199, and that's what people are going to quote. We'll catch it at the pro day. I don't think I have them in different tiers. I think that if I'm putting it numerical, Bijan's number 1 and Gibbs is 2. I don't think I have enough there to put him in different tiers because Bijan did not go out and light the combine up. Gibbs and a host of others had better 40 times. He had the same 10 splint as Roschon Johnson. Burst score wise, Chase Brown put up a better burst score. More on him in a minute. Tyjae Spears was also put up a better burst score. Who's a late round lover, I guess, which burst score is
he's going to be a day 2 pick.
Yeah,
Spears will be going to be a late 3rd round pick.
Burst score is big on running backs. You look at speed score. Gibbs did put up a better speed score. So, what do you make of that? I think that Robinson's still easily the most well-rounded back in this class. I think he is the RB1. I don't think he did enough to go tier of his own. I damn sure don't think he merits Dynasty RB1 discussion before he ever takes a snap in the NFL. And I don't think he did nearly as much for himself with the combine as what a couple guys have in previous years. Barkley, Taylor, even Kenneth Walker.
I still have Bijan in his tier of his own, and it's not because I don't love Gibbs. I love Gibbs. The simple fact is I don't know if Gibbs will ever be a workhorse. Because of his play.
It's a
he
dying
may
breed.
not be. He may not be, and you're absolutely right. And
the
we've
way
always
the
talked
running back
about
field-
Robinson. We've always talked about Robinson in this case being that high. I think it's due to Devi. I think it's due to the fact that the running back class is the past 3-4 years have relatively disappoint, and Bijan's just young. I'm with you. I don't think we should anoint him the RB1 in Dynasty. I don't.
It's like I don't hate Bijan. It's I hate the hype around him, which is
it's
normally where I land.
I've seen more and more, wanting to sell on the potential value that's been there so far. Then more so than just trying to ride it out. Because I agree. I don't think he's warrant the Barkley hype, but
it's also not a deep running back class either. So there's that too.
This is a product again of disappointing classes from before, and the community starving for youth at running back, and seeing guys like Breece Hall get hurt, Walker, okay, but will he ever command enough of a target role to be that dude? Javonte Williams getting hurt, Taylor getting hurt into his 3rd year.
The news on Javonte Williams is really not good either.
We've talked about this scene, we've been on this the whole time. He's going to go the Dobbins route. We've been on. I know I've been for sure been on this.
I have not disagreed with you.
Yeah, at all. So, but to go back to it, it's. I agree. I don't think he disappointed at the combine. I
don't think.
I think he did exactly
either.
what I thought he'd do.
That's what people expected.
He was never going to be.
I wanted him to. For me, it's what I expected him to do. The problem is it's what I expected him to do, because for me to see him in the way a lot of other people see him, he needed to do more.
I still think Breece Hall, he's still my 101.
I agree.
He's still my RB1 in Dynasty. So
yeah,
I'll let Ryan and Justin talk to you about. Sorry guys for holding up this. Whoever wants to go.
No, I mean I can see where you guys are coming from on Bijan Robinson not being the RB1. I mean, it's easy to state he's not a generational talent.
In Dynasty,
yeah.
he is in the class.
In the rookie, yes, he
but in
absolutely
Dynasty.
is. In Dynasty.
Yeah, not in Dynasty. Because it's hard to anoint him as RB1 just because we don't know what he's going to do. I mean,
You don't even know where he's going to go. You don't know where he's going to play.
We weren't anointing Kenneth Walker as the RB1, and look at him now. He's RB2, RB3. Before he was a team.
He's no Brees Hall.
Oh, he has no Brees Hall.
Okay.
But still.
Yeah, I mean, I think people obviously Bijan's going to be the one guy I think Gibbs is to no matter where he lands. But the interesting thing for me in this group is I think once you get from running back 3 to 10 in this class, it is going to completely end up where these guys land.
Yeah.
Whatever the team, you're going to see a guy who's at 10, 11, 12 in rankings jump up to 3. You're going to see a guy who was maybe 3, 4 drop back to 12, 10, 9, 10, 11, 12. And it's all going to be on landing spot because I feel like there's so many guys that are pretty close as far as abilities, speed, and size. DC. Yeah, exactly. So I just think, the draft capital, I just think you're going to see a lot of these guys. I have a feeling going off in the 3rd round, especially with those supplemental picks. I can see a ton of running backs going possibly late 2nd round and really splashing in that 3rd and 4th round. And I think landing spot is where you're going to see a big thing because a guy I'm talking about all the time is Sean Tucker. I'm a big Sean Tucker fan, but basically 2 months ago, Sean Tucker, for a ton of people, was RB3. Now I'm seeing him at 9, 10, 11. I mean, he was going like
it was bad
1-6, 1-7. Now every mock draft, he's like mid to late 2nd round, where he was like pretty consistently in the middle to the end of that 1st round in mock drafts. So again, he's a guy, he didn't run. I was disappointed, didn't get to see him at the combine. But I expect his numbers at his pro day.
I want to see his pro day.
If they come anywhere close to what Chase Brown did for Illinois, I think he jumps back up. I think Tucker jumps back up because I feel like him and Brown are similar body types, similar type of players. I think Brown's a harder runner as far as like through contact. But if you get Tucker on a nice system where they do zone blocking and he can just pick the hole and burst, I think it makes him a much better player.
The 49ers.
Honestly,
in the third round.
I hate to say it because I love CMC. I want him to get more of the workload, but man, I think you put a guy like Miami. I told people all year, man, if you put Sean Tucker on Michigan last year, the numbers he would have put up. I mean, Blake Corum had a good year. Edwards is good, but man, Sean Tucker, they had a bad offensive line in Syracuse, and I'm a Syracuse guy. I got my master's there. I watch Syracuse all the time. I saw a ton of their games. Their O-line was awful. I mean, awful. He was having to immediately try to make moves to try to get any yards this year.
He was.
And so
it's what you're saying is he's the Cam Akers of his class.
Oh man, don't do that.
Actually, that's an even better fit for me because I don't like Tucker.
That's what problem for me. I'm not on Cam Akers.
Oh, good. I'm not either. I hate Cam Akers.
I think Sean Tucker is a guy that depending on where he lands, I think he could move way up. He could be RB3 for me, depending on landing spot. But if he ends in a bad situation, I can see him dropping big time. Chase Brown's another guy I love. I love that he had the combine he had because
his combine's going to move him up.
Absolutely, because he's a guy
he was a
living in Muhammad. I'm 10 minutes from the stadium. I went to a bunch of Illinois games this year, watched almost all of them. I mean, the guy is just a tough runner. He's a beast. I think he kind of just fell out of favor just because people are like, whatever. They didn't think he did that much, but I mean, I'm thinking people are going to go back and start looking at the film again and realizing that I think I would rather have Chase Brown than like a Zach Evans or a Kendrick Miller. I'd rather have Brown over both those guys. So for right now, I think it's going to totally depend on landing spot. But if you had to just take me right now and say who's your top, 5 guys or whatever, I'm probably putting Sean Tucker as my number 3. I'm probably putting Brown is my number 4. And then that number 5 spot is again going to be a big spot guy. But I think you got to go Charbonnet if he ends up a good spot or a Kane just because of the talent. I mean, the guy's got so much speed. If he ends up on a team that really can spread it out and use him correctly on offense, I think he's got a bunch of fantasy upside just for the athletic ability.
I got a lot to unpack.
I love A-Chain.
I got a lot to unpack here. So the Shannon Brown, I completely agree with. I thought that those are 2 guys who came out of the combine looking really, really good. I have not done film on either guy yet. They were kind of a tier 2 film watch for me. I'm now super excited to get in and do that because the productivity for both guys was there. Brown more so than anything. Brown's productivity is outstanding. But both of those guys are now even more intriguing to me after the combine. I'm not a big Sean Tucker guy. Him not performing didn't do anything to lift that up for me. That doesn't mean that I disagree that he's definitely in that clump of 3 through 10, and where he lands is going to change that because, look, he put together some numbers. They did have a bad O-line. There were things I saw that I didn't love about him, but at the end of the day, this is not a deep running back class, and it could fall in a lot of different directions. Where he lands in the right spot, he does elevate because he's in this middle tier of backs that, everybody's going to plant their flag on a guy or two, and you're going to end up right or wrong. I don't have the same disdain for Tucker that I do for Zach Charbonnet. I do not like Zach Charbonnet. To me, Zach Charbonnet is
Zach Moss.
He's Isaiah Spiller. He's Cam Akers. He's, all these guys in the past, Zach Moss, all these guys in the past, the fantasy community has latched onto, and I'm like, nah, I don't love it. And to be fair, Charbonnet's combine was not terrible. He came out
it was good enough
and did pretty decent. And it was good enough for me to think like, all right, yeah, I might be a little wrong there. I didn't love the film, and to me, him and Tucker are kind of like, they're gonna fit in this weird tier for me where it's like, I'm not sold, but I also know that I could be wrong on this, so we got to rank them high enough to accommodate for the fact that I could be wrong.
Well, yeah, especially when they go to the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You put one of these guys on the Broncos, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I kind of like that.
Exactly.
All of a sudden, one of those guys go way up. And that's why I think you're going to see just that tier is going to be completely dismantled once the actual draft happens.
Why I don't assign.
To me, it really is a two.
And
it is a 2 running back class.
Yeah, and that's why I don't assign tiers or don't assign numerical rankings until after the draft. I'll tier it up, but until the draft happens, that's my gate 3. That's the third big mover for everybody is draft capital and where did you land. And right now, you've got Charbonnet, you've got Brown, you've got Rodriguez, you've got Tucker, you've got Spears, Miller, all these guys that nobody knows how that's going to fall. Because they haven't distanced themselves.
You guys remember a time when we were always told to take or to get 2023 first-round picks?
I do.
Remember that time? Remember that time when it was like you want to have as many 23 firsts as you can get?
Not the case anymore.
This is like a 6-person draft in Superflex for me. And it's just like... I'll wait. I'll trade back to round 2. Where's Sean Tucker?
I'll trade in 2024.
Where's my guy? Where's Roshan Johnson? Like, where are the guys that I like that, maybe the community's falling sour on? Like,
I absolutely agree. This is the draft where
what a fucking joke in this class.
If I have a bunch of late seconds, a bunch of thirds and fourths and rookie drafts, I'm actually kind of pumped because I feel like I could take a flyer on some guys that I like that are probably not that far off the guys going the end of the first round, beginning of the second round. And I don't feel like I'm reaching if I'm taking those guys late second, mid third, early fourth. Just value based. Yeah, if you can move some of your first and move back into rounds, or hey, I'll trade you my first this year for a first next year and a second this year, or something like that. I definitely am trying to make those moves because I just think that, again, landing spot's going to make a big difference for a lot of these guys. And there's going to just be certain guys you like that other people don't like on the landing spots. So I just think there's value to be had in this draft. I don't think it's the high end that everybody wanted it to be, where they, superstar after superstar in the first round. I think it's a deep, good class, but it's just, you're going to probably see a lot of wide receiver 2s, wide receiver 3s, RB2s. You're just not going to get a lot of studs, I don't think, in this class.
Except for tight ends.
You're getting depth.
I love tight ends.
I'm so pumped.
That's the thing. I'll take a million thirds and fourths, and I'll take 4 different
I'll drive 8 tight ends.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll take him and I'll stash
It's going to be Hopper me fighting for like Dalton Kincaid. It's going to be literally, me and Hopper fighting for Dalton Kincaid, and then
I'll snipe you guys.
Like Zach Kuntz,
like Musgrave too. Like I want.
Oh yeah, no, don't touch Musgrave. He is mine.
You all can have Musgrave after Kuntz's combine.
After Musgrave's combine too.
Kuntz was better.
They're both like 95th percentile plus. I want them all.
Yeah.
Give me all the tight ends.
Kuntz is better.
Unfortunately, I don't have enough tight end premium.
All right. Anything else on running backs?
No.
No.
All right. Wide receiver group. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Nope.
Roshan Johnson.
I like him.
Yeah.
I do.
He's I think he's also like another one of those names where, like how Justin said, you go from 3 to 10 running backs, and he's at that number 10, number 11 running back right now.
He's in the Jag tier.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's not Gibbs or the guy that supplanted him.
No.
I'm sorry. Bijan Robinson supplanted Roshan Johnson.
Yeah, I know.
It happens. Keontae Ingram was our boy, and he got supplanted by Bijan too.
Yep. All right. Wide receivers, couple things to get into here. JSN didn't run as we expected. Absolutely destroyed agility drills as we expected. I think with Addison's bad showing that JSN is
firm one.
Is the firm one, with Johnston probably the firm 2.
Yeah. I love Addison. Love him. He was one of my big Debbie darlings.
Horrible showing though. Really not.
Whoever
good.
his manager is, fucking fire him. This was rough.
To rebound at his pro day to recover some of that, because he is somebody that hurt himself.
He did, which sucks. I'll still take him though. I still want all the shares of him. He's such a good
I love Addison. Yeah, I love Addison. I think Addison's great. Everybody's like, oh, look, he's small. He's not that tall. I'm like, dude, he's exactly what they listed him as.
He's Devonta Smith.
No, he's exactly what he was. Yeah.
He's exactly what he was. But if you look at him next to like a Devonta Smith, he's skinny, but the guy's got like 0% body fat. He's actually pretty muscular. He's just got nothing on him outside of that. And I just think the way the game has changed, I just think that he's a guy that can make it for being small.
He can't touch his receivers anyway. So what's it like?
It's not the size that bothers me. It's it's how he tested athletically, but he runs with enough technique too to where I don't think it matters. I think for me, this is what the combine has always been to me. It's not going to change tiers for guys. It's going to solidify opinions for me. And for me, I was really trying to sort through JSN, Johnston, and Addison and how I wanted to go in with that as a tier. And what it did is it solidified JSN as 1, Johnston as 2, and Addison at the bottom of those 3. It doesn't move him significantly down for me at all, because I was already close on those 3. It's just I was looking for what separates them for me, and I found it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense. I mean, I think, JSN, the guy's just a technician. I mean, I think he's honestly, I hate to say this, I think he's a better Cooper Kupp. I mean, he's got a better pedigree, but he's that guy that figures out how to make, he works zones like mad. He's good against man. He's not a burner.
He's so smooth too.
But he's going to be able to beat guys because he's so good breaking in and out of his routes on short routes that he's going to be able to beat guys deep that are trying to cover those routes. So I think JSN, I think he's a guy, no matter with landing spot, I think he's probably got to be the number 1 guy, just no matter what. Addison, again, I love Addison. I had him in every Devy league I could. I just think he's a guy that makes plays. He's a perfect example of a guy that performed and put up stats everywhere he went. His stats were a little down last year, but that was due to a few games of injuries. But when he played, he balled out, and he was awesome. I just think he's a guy that athletically, yes, you look at him, he doesn't just blow you away, but I just think he's a baller. I mean, he's that guy
he's
that
gonna
makes
win
plays.
wherever he goes.
Yeah. He reminds me. He reminds me of a Marvin Harrison, who's Marvin Harrison's my all-time favorite player ever. Like, I've got Marvin Harrison stuff everywhere, but I think he's that type of guy where Marvin wasn't the fastest dude in the world. Everybody said he was too small, but the guy just knew how to play wide receiver. I feel like that's Addison. I just feel like he knows how to play the position, and I think he's going to be really good. And there's a couple landing spots that I think would be phenomenal for him fantasy-wise. But those are my guys. Johnson, I know the size, a little bit bigger. I'm a little more scared of him just with the hands and everything else. But those 2 guys, I mean, I'm hoping actually the Addison not having great combine. I love it because I have a couple like 1.7, 1.8s, 1.9s.
Oh my god, yeah, let him
and I'm
fall.
hoping
I think he might fall beyond that.
I'm hoping
too.
he gets
Oh,
me
yeah,
there.
I
If I
think
get
he
him
will.
at 1.7, 1.8, I'm all over that.
I can't wait for him to, to go to Kansas City to fulfill the Marvin Harrison prophecy, where he gets to play with the with the greatest quarterback of all time at that time.
Yeah. Guy I want to throw out is Zay Flowers. I love Flowers going in. And he didn't do anything to hurt that, in my opinion. He solidified that is what I thought he was, right? And that is, a Tyler Lockett type of player that isn't going to blow you away with athleticism, that is a bit on the smaller side, that's probably going to sit in the slot, but that runs well enough and that plays well enough, and that is explosive enough to where he can actually make some hay from that position. This isn't saying that this is a high first round pick. It's not. It's a late first, early second. But, he did exactly that, and you can be disappointed because they're not gaudy numbers, but you look at where he compares in size, it's Elijah Moore and Tyler Lockett. You look at what they did combine-wise, it's Elijah Moore and Tyler Lockett, other than the fact that Flowers didn't do agility drills. I'm interested to see if he does that at his pro day, but overall, athletically, he kind of tested exactly where I expected him to. I really liked the film. So he's a guy that's definitely locked himself into like this sweet spot tier of something I want to target, especially if he lands someplace that's going to have an opportunity for early target volume. Because I think he'll have day 2 DC.
Yeah, I like Zay Flowers a lot. He's probably number 4 for me. I like him all around that early second round, late first round. He's definitely the guy I would take. I mean, I laugh at these quarterbacks sometimes. People make excuse for production. I mean, Zay Flowers put up production. His QB play was terrible. I mean, his QB play was terrible, and the guy still put up stats, still played well. Him running a fast 40, I think, helped him. And then the fact that almost everyone in this class is small at wide receiver. Like almost everyone outside of Johnson is kind of small. So I think that helped him in that he didn't look as tiny because there wasn't a whole lot of hunking big DK Metcalf type wideouts in this draft. And so I think it helps some of those guys.
So I want to piggyback on that because that was the one thing that I did find surprising as I was going through combine results, and it's number of big wide receivers that didn't necessarily have college productivity that did really, really well at the combine once you look at their size adjusted stuff. And I'm talking guys like, I don't even remember his first name. It's Matt Landers. It's Andre Iosivas, Higgins, Mingo, Palmer are the 5 that I called out here. But there were just these handful of big dudes that tested really, really well. I'll give you some of the numbers on this real quick. So...
yeah, I think they tested well, but those guys all had very mediocre production overall. So that's why I think that helps a guy like Flowers. Yeah,
it does help a guy like Flowers. I'm looking at this as a tier of guys that I'm really interested to do film on to see if there's anything that jumps out to me as like somebody I'd be interested in like is like a 3rd round pick or something like that. Because there are some guys out there that are larger and fit that. Jonathan Mingo checked in at 6'2", 215. 4.46, 131 burst, 114 speed score. He checked in pretty well. Let's see. Trey Palmer, 6'0", 192, 4.3 speed though, 107. Checked in pretty well. A couple other guys. Andre Iosivas, he is 6'3", 205, 4.43, 130 burst, 109 speed score, 10.97 in the agility drills. Like, there are some big guys in the lower part of this draft class that don't have the productivity, but they put up some decent combine numbers to where I'm interested to watch and see, like, okay, why was the productivity not there? And is there something in the way that they play that makes me think like this could be a situation where this is worth a late round flyer somebody could get something out of this. And it was just, to me, the surprising thing was the number of guys that there were that fit that bill that came in at 6'2" to 6'4" with good combine numbers. I thought that was really surprising for the lack of productivity that they had. And there's got to be at least one of those guys that hit, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I liked it. Another guy that I'm big on in this class that I think you can get in those mid rounds that's got some pretty good size and a guy that produced was Xavier Hutchinson from Iowa State. I'm big on him. I like him a lot. I see myself doing mocks, and I'm constantly taking him like mid to late third round, or even top of the fourth round in some mocks. I like him a lot. I just think he's got that good size. I can't remember exactly what he was at. I think he was at 6'2",
6'2", 203.
Yep. So I knew I was close. 6'2", 205, 203. So, and he was productive at Iowa State without the best QB play either there. I like him. He's a guy I would love to take a flyer on. He's the guy that I'd love to see end up in a good spot as a third, fourth round pick in the real NFL draft. If he's probably a guy despite landing spot, I'm probably taking a shot on. I'm probably going to take him and just see where he lands, because I just think he's a guy that's got some upside that could actually end up doing something.
Oh, Matt Landers was the other guy that was missing there. So he's 23, but 6'4", 200 pounds, ran a 4.37.
Jesus.
It's pretty fast.
Yeah.
Jesus.
127 burst, 114 agility. Or 127 burst, 114. So, like that. Hutchinson, too. There's this group of guys. It's like there wasn't productivity, but there's size and athleticism there, and the NFL will figure out how to do something with a couple of them.
Like I said, I keep talking about this draft. If you can just pile up on some later picks, I just think there's a lot of guys.
Get your lottery tickets.
The fourth rounders.
Yep, there's a lot of guys worth taking a shot on. Then obviously, if you're drafting those guys in the second, you'd be really nervous about doing it. But man, you feel great about getting that guy in the fourth.
Yeah. All right. Only other thing I want to call out with wide receivers is a lot like the Gibbs wasn't 200 pounds. The Hyatt didn't run in the 4.3s. He ran a 4.42. You're talking
still pretty freaking fast.
You're talking 3/100ths of a second for a guy that's that size. Speaking of, larger in this class and athletic, like you're really gonna fade a guy because literally that.
He's skinny. 6 foot 176.
But he can move.
But he can move.
I know he can. I know. I'm just. I
burst is
forgot
good.
that he that he came or that he weighed in so skinny.
Well, and that's what I said. So many of these guys were small. So many of the high end guys were just not very big. They were pretty light.
Yeah.
All of them were like 5'10" to 6 foot, and that's why I'm saying I think it helped guys for
Like
some
Flowers.
reason. Hyatt. Yeah, Flowers. I think it helped Flowers a ton. Hyatt, I'm not sure why everybody kind of was down on him just because he didn't run the 4.3s. I think he's pretty much the same he is to me. I think he's one of those guys. He is a little bit of a long shot to me. I would take Flowers over him just because I feel like he's a better all-around receiver.
I agree.
But Hyatt's a guy that could get, if Hyatt can turn himself into a Deshaun Jackson type who just, takes the lid off and gets you 3 catches for 102 yards and a touchdown, most
Gabe
weeks,
Davis?
then you're feeling good.
Santa Claus. Yeah, he doesn't position. He doesn't position as well as Gabe Davis, but damn, does he high point better.
He's a fantastic deep threat.
He
is.
He is, and I looked at it and I'm like, when I watched the film, I saw this is sub 4.45. I didn't necessarily see 4.3. He stacks defenders really well too. This wasn't like I'm blowing guys away. This is a smart player. And he had a great connection with Hendon Hooker as well. So, yeah, I don't know. It was just one of those things that I thought was weird to me. And it's like, all right, he didn't run a 4.3 in the 4.3s. He ran 4.42, and you're going to, over a couple 100ths of a second, just fade that?
That's what people do.
I think hopefully
that drops him into that early second round instead of the end of the first. Now you got a shot to get him at 2.3, 2.4, maybe, where maybe before the combine people were kind of putting him at that end of that first, that 111, 112 area. So get a little discount on him for the people that are mad about not running a 4.3.
Take it and run.
Oh, so Ford Wheaton's the other guy that consistently was popping up near the top of athleticism boards for player profiler. He checked in as the number 1 most athletic receiver, 6'4", 221, 4.38 40, 94th percentile, 100th percentile speed score, 96th percentile burst score, 100th percentile catch radius.
Jesus.
For him.
It's freaking nuts.
So
there's some tools to work with.
Another guy that didn't
That's for
produce,
sure.
but is very, very toolsy, that's going to be right in that group of, these are bigger guys that didn't produce, but damn are they athletic. Let's see what they could do. Ford Wheaton was just interesting to me because as I'm clicking through combine results, he's at the top of literally everything.
Yeah.
So.
But one more alongside Jalen Hyatt is Marvin Mims. Not the size. Obviously, he's not 6'5", 177. It's a little bit bigger and thicker in that stance, but he ran a 4.38, massive deep threat.
You said
you got to watch to see where he
did
lands.
You say Mims was bigger?
No, okay. In terms of BMI, he's bigger.
BMI.
Yes.
It's 5'9", 177.
That's
bigger BMI. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, big. That's where I was going with. But yes.
I like Mims a lot. Mims a lot. If I can get him in the 3rd round, I think landing spot can move him up a lot, but I don't want to move up too much because I love been getting him in the early to mid 3rd round in mocks. I like him a lot. I think he's a guy that's definitely worth taking a shot on. They didn't have the best QB play in Oklahoma this last year. I just think he's a guy that's got talent.
He did with what he had.
There's always two guys.
You move away from Caleb Wilson, or from Caleb Williams.
Yeah, there's always two guys that I tie at the hip, and Mims and Flowers are pretty damn close for me.
Mm-hmm. I think you're just getting a cheaper Mims. I think Mims is closer to Flowers than most people want to admit. Yeah, but I think you're getting cheaper, so much cheaper with him instead of a late 1st, early 2nd. You're getting a guy in the 3rd in a lot of drafts.
That may change after the draft.
That definitely could. He could. I do think that rising up quite a bit if he gets decent draft capital and somehow somebody takes him in the 3rd round or something. I could see him moving up quite a bit in rookie drafts.
How about one that took a massive fall and Keyshawn Butte?
Well,
yeah. He was a guy I was out on originally.
I was out on him anyway.
I just didn't see the hype around him. I know he had a good freshman year, but just, man, whenever there's just one after another character concerns, it just, I'm just worried about taking a guy like that and him just being
I think he's going to go late day 3 and
his combine was awful. I mean, his combine was horrible. Awful. And it never helps when your coaches basically ask you to leave. I mean, when they're telling you, please enter the draft, there's problems there. And, I know some guys with character concerns can still make it and be really good. If I'm a coach or I'm a GM, unless the guy is just out of this world talented, I just don't want the headache. I'd rather take somebody else.
I mean, it's just crazy. This time last year, we were looking at Butte as the wide receiver 1 of this class.
There was a world 2 years ago that he was a Debbie wide receiver 1. After his freshman season, it was what can we do to get Butte? Yeah, it was him, and I forgot who else was on that same level of him, but it was Butte, and the world falls pretty quick to you when you hit the bottom. So,
all right, tight ends. Anything else on wide receivers? Probably not.
No.
Yeah, let's get. I love this tight end group. Let's talk about them.
All right, Dalton Kincaid did nothing. Did fine. He didn't need to do anything.
So he's still baying my heart.
So let's go into the guys that did. Damn, were there a lot of good combine performances. None better than what Zach Kuntz turned in. And I know y'all want to talk Musgrave. I'm looking at Player Profiler right now. The overall athleticism
so
score.
Good. It's so
1.
Yeah.
1 all time for athleticism.
It's Mike Gesicki.
It's
so good.
95th percentile 40, 99th speed score, 98th burst score, 97th percentile in agility score, 100th in catch radius.
6'7",
255. Didn't produce. Hyper athlete. Good Lord. I haven't got to do the film work up on this, but right now, just looking at this right here, good Lord, give me all of this as a late round pick.
Yeah, here's the deal on
round mock.
Yeah, like I say, I think for sure. And here's the thing I think people forget
Of
about.
course, he played for Penn State.
He was at Penn State. That's what I'm saying. He was at Penn State with Fryermuth. And so again, Muth won that job. They were there together. He was actually a higher rated recruit than Fryermuth was. He was actually supposed to be the man at Penn State and supposed to be the next big tight end. So, I mean, you tell me right now, you put Penn State next to his name instead of Old Dominion, and you're not. I mean, this guy's a first or second rounder. So I think he's got all the talent, all the ability. He had a better year last year than the year before than this last season at Old Dominion. No, the man he has all the traits. He's got everything. We always talk about these wide receivers or running backs who are so good coming out of high school that didn't necessarily produce, but they have that high ranking. I mean, that's Kuntz as a tight end. I mean, the guy was an absolute beast coming out of high school. I want to get him everywhere I can. I just think he's got such a high upside and a guy that could definitely perform. It's not like he was playing at a small school because he wasn't good. He just transferred because he was in a really, he ended up being in a situation with a ton of other great tight ends at Penn State, and he ended up moving along. But I love Fryermuth. I think he's awesome, and the fact that he was there at the same time and was ranked higher just makes me want him even more.
Yeah. And it's not just him either. I mean, it's him, Will Mallory, Sam Laporta, Darnell Washington, Luke Musgrave all turned in really, really good combine performances that are going to help their cause and elevate them. Like, all of those guys turned in really good combine performances.
I know usually, we talk about the 3 years for a tight end to kind of really hit. Last year we had some pretty good performances from rookies. But I think the reason that people are even more hyped is these guys are real athletic, real big, but there's not a lot of tight ends that are really holding down spots in the NFL right now as starters. There's a lot of guys that are they're playing because they got nobody else. And so I think even more is the opportunity to start for a lot of these tight ends are going to be there. If they go in and they perform well, I think that a lot of these guys should see earlier playing time than we're used to out of rookies. And that's why I'm excited for this class. I love the athletic abilities. I love everything else, but I just think there's a ton of landing spots where they can immediately start playing.
This is the 6th draft class that we have worked up, and this is easily, from an athletic standpoint, the most athletic class we've done, and it's not even close.
So excited.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
You know who wasn't athletic? Michael Mayer.
Yeah, that was a crazy thing for being the tight end one and the guy everybody talked about. And I still think he's a really good tight end.
He's a great inline tight end.
I think he's great, but he just didn't put up the athletic score that all these other guys did. And then when everybody else ended up measuring the same size as him or bigger, I think that's what really got people's attention when you're seeing these other guys that they're putting up these athletic scores and they're just everybody's 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", 250, 255, and it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, the spotlight was switching off him to everyone else now. Everyone's like, it was Michael Mayer. Then as soon as it goes to the combine, it's like, oh, hey, look at you over here.
It's so disappointing looking at his player profiler page. And it's just like, oh, yeah, here's Michael Rudolph.
Yeah. And that's not to say that.
No, I'm sorry. I got Rudolph.
Yeah.
Michael Rudolph.
Well, Michael Rudolph. I got it. You mishmatched it.
Same difference.
Yeah, I picked it up too. I was like, Michael Rudolph. Yeah, the new Kyle Rudolph. Kyle Rudolph's son.
Michael Rudolph.
The tight end class is gonna be deep, and there are a boatload of people that help themselves out the combine. Meyer did not, didn't hurt himself necessarily. Like, if you watch film, you know that he's not this hyper athletic dude. He's kind of clumsy, honestly, downfield. He's a great inline blocker though. And the hands are pretty reliable. And Payne Durham also did not turn in a good combine, but he's the dude that carries 5 guys on his back when he runs. So, I mean,
yeah, I'm a big Payne Durham guy. I know he didn't test well. I didn't think he would be.
I didn't either.
I don't think he's a superior athlete, so I didn't think that. But he's a guy who hasn't played a lot of football. He was kind of a late bloomer to football. But I watched quite a few Purdue games this year. I just think that guy has something. I don't know what it is. I just think he's a guy that can play. I think he's going to do something. Yeah, he is. He's a gritty player. I really like him. I'm definitely gonna take a flyer on him.
I'll be rooting for him for sure.
Yeah, he's a guy I want to take as my last pick in my rookie draft and just sit on him, especially if I have a taxi squad. I'm going to put Payne Durham there, and I'm going to say I'm going to see you in 3 years when you blow up and you're playing really
Right.
good. That's what I want to see.
Carrying.
That's me with Darnell Washington.
He's just
Except
carrying.
He won't go that late.
Yeah, he's just carrying 4 guys downfield when he runs. He doesn't run fast, but you don't have to run fast if you can carry 3 of them on your back.
Heck no.
Yeah, and
He
he's
didn't
a guy
carry
that,
him.
yeah, and he's a guy that made catches in tight spaces. He was he
Yeah.
was a guy they always looked for out near the end zone. And
Yep.
how much have we seen that in the NFL where they really use tight ends more near the goal line now? So he's a guy I don't ever think he's going to be a superstar, but man, I think he could end up being a pretty quality NFL player one day.
Whatever team he ends up on, he's going to be one of those guys where they find a way to chant his name after every catch because the fan base is going to love him.
Yeah, they're going to love him. Everybody's going to love him. He kind of reminds me, honestly, of like a Heath Miller.
There you go.
I know Heath Miller went over, but I feel like he's kind of a Heath Miller. Like
I agree.
Heath Miller was not super athletic. He didn't run really fast. He wasn't great at anything, but man, the guy just blocked. He was gritty. He made the tough catches when you needed him. He never put up, fantasy gold as far as stats, but he was a guy that was just a really solid NFL player. And I feel like that's Payne Durham can totally be that guy.
I agree completely. All right. Anything else on tight ends? Cool.
Not until the draft.
That's the show. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Thank you, Justin, for coming and hanging out. One more time, tell the people where they can find you. Run down that list.
Yeah. I'm most active on Twitter. So JT Orange is where you'll find me at Twitter. JT Orange, JT Orange 4, and a bunch of different Discords. I'm in there always chatting it up with everybody. New to the DLF family. Going to see articles coming out from me on them. Also, the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast, which is on the PTW website, their YouTube page and all that. So I do that with John McGlynn. We throw out shows kind of a lot of times on Tuesdays during the regular season, but right now we're kind of piling up shows whenever we can get guests and do stuff. So a lot of stuff coming out here in the next month or so for us on that pod. Also then Dynasty Pros guys, I do some stuff with them as well, articles and some other things. I'm hoping to jump on some IDP shows and talk some IDP stuff with them this year. So kind of all kinds of stuff in the irons of the fire right now for me as far as fantasy goes. So looking forward to it. Real pumped about this draft. Real pumped for this upcoming season. I just, every year I feel like I can't get more excited than the year before, but I'm just pumped to be a part of it and everything that's going on because I think it's going to be a fun year, fantasy football and real life football.
I agree.
Awesome.
All right. At Ryan_FFB, at Beerfield Theory, at Beerfield Hop with 2 P's, at Beerfield. I think it's just Beerfield on Twitter still. We didn't change that back, did we?
No, it's still
that's
still
right.
Beerfield.
Okay, still at Beerfield on Twitter. See how much I use our Twitter.
It's Ryan's job now. It's okay.
It is. Catch you next time.
Trying to keep up with John here now,
We'll be talking free agents at some point next week.
Yay.
To be
Wait.
determined when. We'll
Is
talk.
that Tuesday? Right? The league starts Tuesday, right? It's when free agency opens.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern.
Yep. Ooh, yeah, legal tampering period. I think it's Monday. I think it's the 13th through the 15th.
Monday, but that probably starts. I thought
It's the 13th through
league
the 15th is legal tampering, and I think the
Okay.
league year starts the 15th, which is Wednesday, which is when you
Wednesday,
can officially
yeah.
sign. So
I can't wait.
me
I love
either.
this time of year.
It's gonna be so much fun. We got to talk about when we're gonna record though, because I'm on vacation at the end of next week. Okay, bye.
Bye.
See ya.